morning once again. It is 6:16 on Friday, December 13th. Yes, it's Friday the 13th, 2019. It's 32 degrees this morning, an 80% chance of rain. Sorry about that. We'll get up to about 47 today. Let's take a general look at the forecast, and then we'll be back with all of it. We've got wet weather alert, cloudy skies this morning with rain developing towards mid to late morning. Expect rain off and on throughout the day. Welcome. This is Mornings with Bob Marrone. I am Bob Marrone, and we are the station at the train station, Radio Westchester, and we are back in our brightly lit studio today. Again, commuters walking to and fro and passing the station. We have a lot of news today, locally, regionally, nationally, and indeed internationally, as the UK looks headed. Believe it or not, there's a sub-story there. It may not be the UK anymore, but let's get to our headlines locally first. Following in his mother's footsteps, a city councilman here in New Rochelle was appointed to a judgeship. His mom's judgeship. A manhole explosion in Mount Vernon caused a massive blackout there. Well, not too massive. 100 customers lost power, but nonetheless. The Orthodox community here in Hudson Valley, they raised $50,000 for the officer who was killed in that horrible incident in Jersey City. And a shelter resident is charged with attempted murder of a toddler son. And in sports, wowee, the Jets got their butts kicked. Not quite as bad as the Labour Party did in the UK. Let's get to those stories on this Friday. Welcome to the program. Folks, you've got like 12 days of shopping till Christmas. Get busy. Here we go. This in several outlets. When Jared Rice takes the oath of office to become New Rochelle's city court judge, he'll replace someone he's quite familiar with. His mom, Mayor Noam Bramson, announced Thursday the appointment of Rice to take over for his mother, Judge Gail Rice, who is retiring at the end of the year. Under the city charter, the mayor can appoint 2 out of the 3 city judges to 10-year terms. The other judge spot is an elected position. Rice has served on the city council since 2011, but opted not to run for re-election. He will end his tenure on the city council before he dons the black robe with gavel in hand in January. He said a judgeship is a milestone he never considered until recently, but he is grateful for the opportunity. And we shouldn't lose in this. His mom, Gail Rice, a long tenure, a very respected judge. He will be filling big shoes, that is Councilman Rice. And of course, anyone who didn't know this is coming hasn't been here a while. And about that manhole explosion in Mount Vernon, not knowing what caused it yet, no one was harmed, but it did make a mess of traffic. And again, some 100 buildings lost power yesterday. And this happened at the corner of Gramerton Avenue and Center Street. The other story, and this is a sweet story, and we'll be talking a little later about that, what happened in Jersey City, but the Orthodox community up in Hudson Valley, here in Hudson Valley, raised $50,000 in 24 hours for Detective Joseph Seals, one of the officers, the officer that lost his life in that domestic terrorist attack in Jersey City 2 days ago. Now, here's what is remarkable about that. This particular Orthodox community has no cell phones and no computers. They reached out to businesses and friends and others to get the necessary equipment to raise the money, and they did that in 24 hours. How such a sweet thing can evolve out of such a horror is just an amazing story. A former resident of the Coachman Family Center in White Plains is now charged with attempted murder of her toddler son. This in Lohud today. Last Wednesday, police were called to the shelter after 29-year-old LaQuanaya Ward allegedly threatened to harm her children. Police say Ward tried to drown her 2-year-old until another resident intervened. Ward's children have now been placed in emergency care. An Army sergeant charged in a vehicle rollover that killed a West Point cadet will face trial by court-martial. This in Low HUD yesterday or today as well. An Army spokesman says 22-year-old Christopher Morgan was killed when an Army tactical vehicle overturned on a dirt road in between West Point's Camp Buckner and the Camp Natural Bridge summer training site in June. 19 other cadets were hurt. Staff Sergeant LaDonna Strong faces charges including involuntary manslaughter and negligent homicide. A trial date has not been set. We'll see what more we can find out. That's all we know. Was the person operating the vehicle inappropriately? Was it a true accident? That is quite a story when you consider the nature of the militaries to take risks, but were they calculated risks? $250,000 in taxes from Chappaqua schools. A school's land deal could dry up, though, if 21 acres get preserved. And this from our tax watch man, David McKay Wilson, does a brilliant job for the Low Hub. After 5 years, a team of Chappaqua school consultants won town approval for a most unusual Board of Education initiative to sell 21 acres of undeveloped land to build a 6-lot subdivision of $2 million mansions with pools, about 40,000 square feet of living space. Wow. In November, the school district put its long-awaited Button Hook Road project on the market for $3.5 million, hoping to lure a developer. The land sale fulfills part of the school district promise of taxpayers in 2016, or to taxpayers, when school officials pitched a $42.5 million sports complex. And anyway, wow. But they lose those taxes. But then again, they get the money. All righty. Spring Valley police arrested an 18-year-old man in connection with Sunday's shooting in the Planet Fitness parking lot on Route 59. Again, this up in Spring Valley, and reported in News 12. Police received an emergency call around 9 p.m. and found the victim with wounds to his face and arm, police said. After an investigation, police arrested an unnamed Spring Valley 18-year-old who said they shot the victim with a realistic imitation pistol that fired BBs. The 18-year-old was charged with first-degree assault. And, Metro North is finally putting, I guess sort of a financial gun to the head of New Jersey Transit. New Jersey Transit could lose nearly $3.4 million next year. Indeed, if Metro North Railroad follows through with a promise, really a threat, to withhold payments to New Jersey Railroad until service improves on a commuter line, that ferries riders to Secaucus and Hoboken. This again in the Journal News today. Rockland County officials want the money to go to improving service for commuters who've had to endure years of canceled trains and lagging on-time performance on the Passaic Valley and Port Jervis lines. Metro North seems to agree. And why do I put the stories in that pack when they belong in this pack? Okay, it is, let's take a look at the time. It is 6:24. We have a lot more news to get to. We have regional news. We have national news. But let's first look at the weather. It's 32 degrees and overcast across Westchester, actually the south shore of Westchester. It's a little colder up county. We're going to get up to 47 today, but basically we're talking about these cloudy skies with rain developing towards mid-morning. Expect off and on rain through the afternoon, mainly light to moderate in nature. Temperatures will be rising through the 40s gradually the entire day. Our high of 48 will occur near midnight tonight. Now, tonight, cloudy with periods of moderate rain becoming heavy towards the midnight hour. Tomorrow, more heavy downpours during the morning will give way to scattered rain in the afternoon, warm with highs around 58 degrees and breezy. Wind out of the southeast 10 to 20 miles an hour. And tomorrow night, cloudy with a few lingering showers. It's going to be a wet 48 hours, folks. Sunday, a mixture of sun and clouds. Windy winds out of the west up to 40, gusts up to 40 miles an hour. Be aware of that, but we will get up to 47 degrees before it's Sunday night. It drops a bit and gets down around 30. On Monday, a mix of sun and clouds. Basically a nice day for when we come back to work. Pardon me. The weather this morning is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And our news this morning, the News Hour, is brought to you by Aging Issues Management and their parent company, or rather their subsidiary, Aging Issues Radio, the law firm of Payne and Kahn, and Plug-in Virtual Reality, or I should say, plug-in virtual reality properly. It's actually, I did. It's pluginvirtualreality.com. That's what I missed. And Dominic Cigars. And don't forget, Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente Patrons and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. Open 7 days. And at 8 o'clock today, Jake will be with us. We'll be talking about Jake's Picks of the Week, which, of course, brings us, as you know, and we'll cover it right now before we get to regional and national news. Let's get to sports, and let's do a little bit of music with sports. It ain't going to be pretty if you're a Jet fan. They lost 42-21 last night, and they lost to the Baltimore Ravens. And everything I read, everything I see, all of our sports experts, one of them will be with us today, and Stephen Callis, all of them tell us the same thing. This Lamar Jackson is going to be the football player, at least in my view, of the era. I mean, the guy already he's a quarterback. He's got 1,100 yards rushing in this fight, 5 games left in the season. He can throw the ball. He makes good decisions. He's quick. He can run. He doesn't slide. This is a whole new breed of cat. I'm a fan. And speaking of fans, Tom texted me in the middle of the night, as he always does. That's Tom from Pelham. The Islanders, they won again. 3-1. Anders Lee added an empty net goal for the Islanders. Mike Hoffman scored for Florida, and Sergei Bobrovsky, made 27 saves. Wasn't enough. They beat the Floridians by a score of 3-1. And the Rangers, a comeback victory. Go figure, out in Los Angeles, losing, but they score 4 unanswered goals in the third period to defeat the Los Angeles Kings by a score of 6-3. Guess who got 3 goals? You got 2 guesses. No, you only got 1 because you know who it is. Mr. Panarin, the bread man himself. What a story. His coming to New York, the most exciting hockey player to come to New York probably since Gretzky. And he was winding down by then. So maybe we ought to say Mark Messier. Not sure. All righty, let's move into baseball. There's a lot to talk about baseball-wise. And who's not happy? You call up if you're not. Brett Gardner rejoins the Yankees on a $12.5 million deal, one of the just for a year, but they got an option to re-sign him. They need him in the outfield because Aaron Judge is still hurting, but they need him for the team. They need him for leadership. And again, who's not a fan of this guy? Plays hard, 36 years old. Good, give him that $12 million. Well spent money. The Mets spent some money as well. They signed an interesting guy, the more the merrier. After identifying starting rotation depth as a Mets weakness, General Manager Brody Van Wagenen added another piece, 30-year-old Rick Porcello. Just a one-year deal at $10 million. A couple of years ago, the guy won a Cy Young, and he's had some good historic, or rather I should say has a pretty decent history of winning, but he'd fallen on hard luck. I think the Mets are looking at him for the back of their rotation. Now, one of the interesting things about the back of their rotation, this now gives them 6 starting pitchers. Will they stay with that? Will anyone go to the bullpen? Will they trade Thor? It's an interesting question. By the way, it's 6:30. Let's go to basketball because this actually is a sad story. David Stern, who spent 3 decades as the most successful commissioner in NBA history, underwent emergency surgery last night for a brain hemorrhage, according to a statement from the league. He collapsed at the Brasserie 8.5 restaurant on West 57th Street in Manhattan at roughly 2 o'clock, according to ABC News, after the FDNY responded to a 911 call for a cardiac arrest. The 77-year-old Stern was admitted and underwent surgery. And this is tough. Guy made a huge difference, was a mentor to many, including the current commissioner of the National Hockey League. And there's always something in sports to kind of, take the put the damper on all the other good stuff, including the sad thing, of course, to the former excuse me. I got ahead of myself, and I'm looking at a football story. The NBA commissioner. Godspeed to him. Meanwhile, in football, the good news was Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. The bad news is that 10 former NFL players, including Pro Bowl running back Clinton Portis, have been charged with swindling millions of dollars from a health care program for the league's retired players. Imagine that, doing it to your own retired players. The ex-players allegedly filed false claims for pricey medical equipment, including electromagnetic therapy devices designed for horses and cryotherapy machines. Let me tell you something about cryotherapy machines. Don't do it. They're scary and they're cold. That is sports on this Friday the 13th. It is 6:32, and we're going to go to some regional news now, and then some, by the way, it's Friday, some happy news. And before we get to, right after that, we'll get to national news. Now, you know that in recent days, Harvey Weinstein has been seen in court in ragged clothes, or at least an ill-fitting suit and a walker. And, you know, I was willing to accept that maybe he's old, he's getting decrepit, his nerves are shot. Well, right up here in our own county in, you can't make it up, in Kisco, they saw him in Target, and he was walking around with a sweatshirt, not unlike this, except it didn't have the hockey emblazoned on it, a gray sweatshirt without a walker. Not really. See, look at the picture. See, look. Who knew? All righty. A story that I want to get into a little bit, because, quite frankly, we had started, after we did this story, from our remote location yesterday. We saw where this wonderful young kid, this 18-year-old, was stabbed and killed by Morningside Park. And I got to thinking about how we let spin get ahead of reality. Over the last several months and a couple of years, I've done a lot of stories, as is the nature of this job. Anyone who does this does that. And Morningside Park kept dinging me in the head. I mean, isn't this supposed to be the whole new upper part of Manhattan and Harlem? It's better. Well, of course it's better, but it's great now. It's safe. It's wonderful. Baloney. Students at Barnard College and nearby Columbia University were on edge Thursday after the murder of Barnard freshman Tessa Majors in Morningside Park. It's just so shocking, said one person, but nonetheless, others say it's jarring. Another one said, I'm frightened. But the fact of the matter is, major crimes, in another piece in the New York Post today, including robberies, have skyrocketed this year in Morningside Park, where Barnard freshman Tessa Majors was murdered Wednesday night. 16 offenses, 11 of which were robberies, were committed inside the Upper Manhattan Park in the first 3 quarters of the year, ending September 30th. The latest available figures show that 3 grand larcenies, 1 felony assault, 1 burglary were also committed there as of September 30th. The numbers in the first 9 months of this year have already surpassed all major crimes committed in the park in 2018, when 11 offenses, including 7 robberies, were recorded there. Major crimes at Central Park are also up for the year. Data shows that Park has seen 66 major crimes so far this year as of December 1st, representing an increase of 16 crimes from the same period last year. So, what's the moral of the story? What are we getting at with that? You know, Bob Cox, and one of the reasons he was the first guest we had, first long-form guest on this program. Bob Cox is, and it's why we have him on, and we don't always agree on everything, who could? But Bob Cox is one of those people who doesn't allow municipalities, school boards, and spinmeisters to take the truth away from things. And one of the lessons from newsmen like him and others whom we have on this program is that don't give me your spin that you got the safest city in the world. Tell me who got killed and why. Don't tell me you have a wonderful school district when you're lying about the statistics. Don't brag and preen, as New York City does, about northern Manhattan and how wonderful it is around there when you know full well there are crimes. Folks, young people, Yes, does it hurt your reputation? But your reputation, New York City, that part of New York City, and the parts of New Rochelle and Yonkers and all the other areas that we cover in Mount Vernon, if you've got a problem, you've got a problem. And what disappoints me in myself as a news guy is it took this for me to say, hey, wait, Morningside Park. I keep doing stories in Morningside Park. Young people, you probably don't listen to this kind of program. Don't walk through Morningside Park in the middle of the night. And let me make this clear for the people who are responsible for the safety, and it's not the cops' fault. Heck, if they arrest somebody these days, they get in trouble. But for the people who are responsible, the elected officials and the politicians in New York City who want to tell you how wonderful northern Manhattan is, in general, I'm sure it's a wonderful area, so long as you stay out of the park and you stay out of the wrong areas. Ooh, did I say wrong areas? You know, and that's, if people, because they, boy, you really give Bob Cox a lot of time. You betcha. Because he doesn't tolerate the spin that hides the truth. Okay, let us continue along. I did want to talk a little bit about this. And this, in a way, is sweet news. We've already, when I say sweet, it's the silver lining while we talk about the regional news. And this was given to me by someone who cares about it, who was touched by what's going on or what happened over in Jersey City. First of all, it's senseless to have a group of people that somehow internalize that they are more Jewish than Jewish, that they are more, in terms of the religious aspect of it, more, we're the real heir. Well, why in God's name, anywhere on the planet, does religion mean that you got to kill the people you don't agree with? It's just it's sort of like a mental, if you will, and I don't want to use the word retardation. We don't use that word anymore, but it is a mental misinterpretation of the world. And you have a brain that is disfigured, a thought pattern that is disfigured to do it. But look at some of the sweet things came out of it, if that can be said. We've already done the story, the Hasidic Jews here in Mount Vernon. Up in the Hudson Valley. I still can't get over this. And if you weren't listening at the top of the hour, they raised $50,000 up here in Mount Vernon. It's amazing, isn't it? Up here in the Hudson Valley for a police officer working and getting killed in Jersey City in 24 hours. And they did it. This is an Orthodox community. They don't have cell phones or computers. So they borrowed them, and they talked to friends, and they talked to businesses. And by word of mouth, they've already raised $50,000. God bless those people. And one of the stories yesterday, and we got this out of the Times of New Jersey, Leah Minda Ferenc co-owned the kosher grocery store in Jersey City. She's gone. Mikkel Douglas was a store employee, married with an 11-year-old daughter who immigrated to the U.S. from Ecuador. He's gone. Moishe Dush was inside the store, or Deutsch, I should say, excuse me, was inside the store getting a sandwich when the shooting erupted. All three who were killed inside the store on Tuesday, along with Jersey City Police Detective Joseph Seals, he the beneficiary of that $50,000, by the way, fatally shot about a mile away just before. They were remembered as selfless friends and colleagues who found ways to make a difference in their community. And Leah Ferenc, 33, she owned the kosher supermarket. The mother of three, she's gone, as a pioneer by the United Jewish Organization of Williamsburg. She and her husband were the very first to relocate from Williamsburg due to the skyrocketing prices, and went over to Jersey City. So just remember those folks. Remember these people, they died from domestic terrorism. And just a sweet story coming out of, before we get to national and international news. A woman, now get this, she drove 800 miles. Her name is Maria Salvaggio. Never expected to start a one-woman animal rescue organization, but she regularly drives across multiple state lines in her RV turned mobile kennel. When she moved to the south from Boston, a Boston home in 2013, she's helped rescue 5,700 dogs. She recently moved to South Carolina and wanted to keep up a habit that she'd started with her daughter while living in New England. visiting local shelters and taking dogs for a walk. And she usually makes this trip from March through January. And wow, what a cool thing to do. What a nice thing to do. And once again, if you're just joining us, you're listening to Mornings with Bob Marrone here on Radio Westchester. It's 32 degrees. It's going to rain. It's cloudy right now. It's going to rain today and right into tomorrow. This is the station at the station. You could listen on RadioWestchester.com. You can go to the aggregator, MyTuner Radio.com, and we are there. You can download my little app there and put my little funny looking face there, and you can listen to us anywhere. You can also watch, and some of you already are, on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and Periscope. And we'll get to this health food in a little while. Now, before we move on to national news, and this always kills me. I've had to do this a few times on the, no, it doesn't kill me. It's the right thing to do. And there is no excuse for this. And this is on me. Yesterday, I think twice, if you would ask me, I tell you I'm human, but it still doesn't excuse. I used an epithet against the president. And I will only tell you my reasoning, but it was street reasoning. It was inappropriate. The president, we were talking about the president having made fun of this young woman, and then the president having fired McCabe, one of the people in the FBI whom he felt was after him, firing a day before, after 30 years of the FBI, firing him a day before. And before he would have got his pension. And this after he had called, now I'm quoting the president now, called the FBI scum. And I'm not going to repeat what I said, but that word was included in it. But twice, rationalizing, it was a rationalization, there's no good excuse for it, rationalizing that if the president's going to get in the gutter, so too will I, and I referred to him as an S-bag. And that is inappropriate. It's inappropriate because I don't want, even though the way the law works, I can use any epithet in these outlets for the most part. I mean, I can't get crazy or use any hate speech, nor will I ever. But I apologize. It was inappropriate, and I don't want that to be this brand. I honestly don't. It was a mistake. It was inappropriate, and there's no good excuse for it. Not me saying, "Oh yeah, he's in the street. I'll get in the street." Well, that's the idiocy that we're trying to avoid, isn't it? So my apologies to all who may have heard that, and barring some level of insanity on my part, it won't happen again. But I should not have done that. And plus, even while I don't agree with this president very much, the office must be respected, and I shall continue on that path. So therefore, moving into the national news as we pass through 644, and we do have to give you an update again. The bottom of the hour is supported by our friends at Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Pena and Kahn, Plug-in Virtual Reality, and Dominic's Fine Cigars. Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrones, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. They're open 7 days, and they will sponsor some fun we'll have with Jake and Jake's Picks. Now, it was Jake, by the way, at 8 o'clock, who told me about, because I don't follow football a little more maybe this year than in the past. I don't follow it that much because doing all this news, and who has time, and being a hockey freak and a grandchildren freak and lover of people. But geez, this Lamar Jackson is changing the game. Very special ball player, and we learned that from Jake. So we'll be talking with him a little later today. So those are the people, Plug-in Virtual Reality as well. They are the people who are supporting this bottom of the hour, and as we get into national news. Our guest today, we're going to talk with Vince again, catch up on how he thought our first story went today. Janelle Albritton, she is the managing editor. She'll be with us at 7:35. She's the managing editor and publisher of she's got a subsidiary, is the Mount Vernon Post, but right now it's the Westchester County Post.com. Also, our sports editor, I'm going to ask him a little more about Lamar Jackson. That's Steve Callis. We'll also be asking him about, I guess, market forces preclude, and I'm about to be a hypocrite, Market forces preclude the term, is anybody worth that much money, quote unquote. But is anybody worth $325 million? I guess you are if someone's willing to pay it. But where does it end? And at what point will baseball price itself out of the average fan? So we'll be talking with him about that. Then Jake's picks and some sports talk, and we'll have Callis and Jake go at one another about that too. 8:20, we're going to talk with a doctor who is going to talk to us a little bit about, well, let's look at your health as the gift you might want to give yourself in the coming year and for Christmas. We moved Hezi Aris up in the lineup today. He'll be with us at 8:35, breaking stories from Yonkers. And then at 9 o'clock, we have a very special guest. We have the owner of the Beachmont Tavern is going to join us about some work he's going to be doing with the radio station. And if you haven't met him before, very interesting guy, nice guy. And what we always like to kid Rob about is that, and we'll give you more information on him later, it's kind of like a surprise guest, can't give it all away, is did you know that the Beachmont Tavern is actually the subject of one of the great American songs? And so it is that we enter this next phase. Last night, the impeachment war devolved into a hopeless the two parties just said barely communicated with one another. They yelled and screamed at one another. The Republicans not wanting, for example, asking that the abuse of power thing be dropped. The Democrats saying no. The Democrats going forward. It was a big nothing burger in the sense that nothing's really changed very much. They came up with their two articles of impeachment, and the Republicans fought it, as one would expect. And after 14 hours, Nadler decided just to adjourn. The Republicans were not happy about that. That is the essential fact of what happened. But today, it looks like they will vote on articles of impeachment, and they'll come up with two. And they're pretty simple at this point. They're just let me see if I get this right. One will be abuse of power. And actually, that's going to be really the heartbeat of it. Abuse of power because of what happened in the Ukraine, and contempt of Congress, or not allowing the Congress of the United States, obstructing them, if you will, to do their job. So those will be the two things. Again, abuse of power and contempt of Congress. Now, the real big story today, because we know what's going on with the impeachment. Yesterday, we argued it ad nauseum, all sides. In fact, some people didn't get on who wanted to. We have most of the people calling in were sort of pro-Republican, and we couldn't get on because they waited too long. Some pro-Democratic people. We'll try and get them on too today, and whomever else wants to call. But again, we have a very busy show. But the real big story today on the global stage, and then we're going to do another local story about, not local, but domestic, where the president, I think, is going to get a big win out of this U.S.-China thing. But this is huge, folks. For those of you who don't follow international politics, you know about Brexit. You know that they voted in a referendum 3 years ago. That is the people of the United Kingdom. And I'm being very specific because the United Kingdom may not exist in a few years because of this. Well, yesterday, it wasn't just a win. It was a landslide. Not since Margaret Thatcher has the Conservative Party, the Tories, won so convincingly. And this sometimes erratic but very charismatic and strong leader, Boris Johnson, has won. And what that means is, and he's won convincingly, he's got enough seats, is that they will go ahead with Brexit. And they will leave the European Union. But again, one of their problems is they're going to try and leave the Union but keep the benefits. That's not going to happen. They're going to be leaving the Union. And if that's what the people want, that's their right. I spent a lot of time there. They consider themselves separate from Europe, but there are economic and other consequences. And these are the two, for those of you who view, as I do in many ways, the UK our parent country from whom we separated, rightly so. The kids had to go off on their own. One is they may well lose Scotland. Scotland has always been separatist. The wars between Scotland and England, there were actually a bunch of countries that make up, just not, I mean, a handful, but still that make up the so-called British Isles. And they are likely to vote, and they came very close to voting to leave. Now, they can't vote to leave. The Scots can't vote to leave without Westminster. That's like their capital, their capital building, their combined Congress of the House of Commons and the House of Lords. Without approval from the government, they can't vote. But what's done in these instances, they have the vote anyway, and that creates great internal tension. So they may well vote to leave, and eventually, if Brexit is not satisfactory to them, which means that they stay in the European Union in some fashion, they will probably leave the United Kingdom. That word will go away. But the interesting piece for we Americans, because it affects us because of our great Irish population, is Northern Ireland, which is part of the UK. It's not part of Ireland. Ironically, even though there are British people in Northern Ireland that might want that, might not want this, the Irish, the Republic of Ireland, the greater part of Ireland, is a separate nation. They are in the European Union. They're not leaving. And that is the way the Northern Irish want it. So will they reunify? Will there be one Ireland? Will they leave as well? So what you have, I mean, when people look at the British Isles, of course they have the Commonwealth around the world, but basically now it's down to Scotland, Wales, England, and Northern Ireland. That's the UK. Well, the Welsh are fine. They're not going anywhere. So it'll just be England. So as with the ancient times and the country from whom we seceded, it'll just be England. The British Empire, well, first of all, when you look at the last 200 years, the British Empire has slowly been de-evolving. Of course, we left. The Hong Kong is gone as of 1997. We all know what's going on there. Of course, in great fashion, the, oh God, what am I forgetting? The biggest one, India left. And Australia's gone. Canada's gone. And they used to have this expression, the Brits did, when the world was pink, because maps would show the UK possessions as pink. And they're just going to be good old England again in 5 years, perhaps. Just very interesting. It's very, and the thing also about the Northern Ireland part of this is that they finally have a nice, friendly border. You know, we had the revolution there. You had all of the killing and all of the terrorism. And all over, we're English, you're Irish, even though they're actually Irish ethnically. We're Protestant, you're Catholic, more of that stuff. Does it ever really go away? So if that's what the British want, that's who we to stay in their way. I don't think economically it helps them, but again, having spent so much time in England and in the United Kingdom in my life, and again, I don't want to make this about me, but knowing the feel of it. The feel of it is that they're a separate country. They're not part of the mainland. I mean, they may need to be economically, but again, they don't like, the Brits don't have a stiff upper lip for nothing. They don't want somebody else governing them. They loved their own currency. They have a very different culture than mainland Europe, as almost every island nation does. It's no nation's an island, but then again, they are. They have a great deal of pride, and they'll be fine ultimately. But they're going to have to. They've got a rough road ahead. But again, that's the decision they made. Now, we've got to go to this one because, in the light, forget the impeachment, please. Otherwise, this is going to be faded. The people who don't like Trump will say, "Oh, this is awful." The people that like him will say it's great, and it is actually great. This one is. One of the things the president did, and one of the things where even we have defended him, even though we don't like his style, and I do think he abuses his power, by the way, just to put my cards on the table. But the White House has reached a deal in principle. All the business papers are saying this today, from the Wall Street Journal to the Post to the Daily News. The White House has reached a deal in principle to resolve the 17-month U.S.-China trade war by agreeing to halt a round of tariffs set to kick in on Sunday. The deal, which has already been approved by President Trump, will stop tariffs of 15% set to kick in on Sunday on $160 billion. 160, that's a lot of money, in Chinese-made goods, including toys, electronics, phones. In exchange, China is expected to agree to boost its purchases of U.S. agricultural goods by as much as 50% by 2020, according to reports. Speculation that a partial deal had been reached sent stocks to a new record after a mixed start early Thursday. The steep climb kicked off after President Trump's morning tweet saying the U.S. and China were getting very close to a big deal. So, and what needs to be said, two of the things that the president said he would do, one was deal with immigration. Now, you may not like how he's dealing with it, but he is in his own way. Most of it involves a wall and other executive decisions that he's made and other legislation that he's trying to put through. Again, we constantly have to remind people, why did he get elected? Why did we elect this brash man? So, and the other thing is deal with China, which everyone says they wanted to do. In fact, we go all the way back, I think, to 2008, or was it 2012? Don't remember, when Mitt Romney was saying one of our bigger problems was China. And other people have said that too. I think it may have come up in 2008 with Senator McCain. So, at any rate, give the man his due. Now, this little piece. Boston Marathon bomber Daskar Desarnarv now wants his death sentence overturned, claiming he didn't receive a fair trial. It was a hoax and a witch hunt. A federal appeals court in Boston on Thursday heard from Snarv's lawyers who claimed their client couldn't have received an impartial trial in a city still reeling. What could be impartial about you got caught, you're on videotapes, you set the bombs with your brother, and you blew it up? Now, of course, we have to respect the system. If he gets an appeal, he gets an appeal. But one of the problems with the death penalty, it's twofold. Now, I know I disappoint a lot of my liberal friends because I support the death penalty. But what I have had to accept after 15 years of doing news, what I've had to accept, can't take any calls yet, but I'll be back to calls. I'll open up in a little bit. What I've had to accept, okay, is the fact that, and I'm just trying to hold on to my thoughts. Again, I'll be back to those calls in a minute, and I can always call people back, although not on that line. Is that our system, such as it is, because of the nature of prosecutors, the nature of it's more important to win than to get at the truth, is imperfect. And because of that, innocent people die. Although, after 30 years of appeals and such, in 20 years, you'd think that that wouldn't be the case. But for people whom there is no question that they killed another human being with intent, it wasn't that they walked in and saw their wife with a zoo, with a husband with 10 babes or whatever, or got in an argument and killed someone over when they're having a fist fight. I get it. But when someone sets out, as this individual did, to kill people with malice aforethought, and you're sure he did it, yes, we support the death penalty. Now we've got one more. I know I put a call on hold, but we're trying to keep things in order today. It's 7 o'clock in about 2 minutes, so we're going to open up the phones till about 7:20, so you stay right there. Don't go anywhere. All righty. There is a movie, and the movie's called The Report. And it's something for down the road when we get into January, after the holidays, after the impeachment is done with and we move on. There is a movie that all say, on all sides, is very accurate, and it's about this particular CIA person, or at least Senate staffer, who was forced, it's his job, to go over the thousands of pages assessing the effectiveness of torturing during the Iraq War. That is, until it was stopped by President Obama. Wow. And even a heated face face-off. This guy had a huge fight with one of President Trump's best friends, John Brennan. Brennan, like most other people who lead the CIA, and he was leading it at that time, was upset that Jones outed those particular techniques. This guy, Daniel Jones, not the quarterback. Very interesting stuff. We've all got those of us who join the conversation here on Radio Westchester, we all should check it out because a lot of people have different opinions. I read and I'm informed by the fact, as I'm sure you are, that torture doesn't work, but there's also a part of me that says, why wouldn't it? I mean, but then again, I tell you anything you want to know. Two things where I would be a bad spy. You're going to torture me? Get out the pen and the tape recorder. Or, worse still, you want me to tell you my secrets? And Kate Upton walks in the room and wants my secrets? Give me the phone. Actually, I'm being tongue-in-cheek. I love my country. I'd like to think I'm stronger than that. Anyway, later on, we're going to talk about health. We're also going to talk about 10 superfoods, foods you should eat and foods you shouldn't eat. But right now, we just need to reset, go to the top of the hour, and open up the telephones, which we will do. But first, it is 7:02, and what we want to do is do our 7 o'clock reset. So we give you a little bit of music. Good morning once again. Yes, indeed, it is 7:02. It's 32 degrees. It's overcast. We're going to have rain today. It is Friday, December 13th. Friday the 13th. Oh, don't walk under ladders. If you see a black cat, shoot it and all that nonsense. 2019. Welcome to Mornings with Bob Marrone. I am Bob Marrone, and this is Radio Westchester. We are the train station at the train station. No, we're the radio station at the train station. I got that right for a change. Big show today. Vince Russo's coming on. Janelle is coming on. Steve Callis, Jake Spicks with Jake Schaefer. We're going to talk about giving you a gift of health for Christmas. Hezi Aris from the Yonkers Tribune and a special guest at 9 o'clock talking about, well, think happy hours, if you will. I'm Bob Marrone. The stories that we've been following for you this morning, and something we didn't really talk enough about. But there wasn't a person in New Rochelle that didn't know that Jared Rice got that job. And it's the nature of politics. Was Jared Rice given that job? I mean, he is a lawyer. His mom was a judge. It makes for a nice story that he gets the judge job. It really is. But many of us knew as the political landscape was being laid out, whether you like the mayor or not is separate from the fact that, hey, that wins over votes. You can get the black vote from District 3 by making a decision like that. And so it simply raises the question, and it's a fair question. Nothing personal about Jared Rice. He seems a bright man, been a city councilman, he's a lawyer. Is he qualified to be a judge? How do we make those decisions? So that was our top story today. The other story, because it was a sweet story, but also from our home heath here, up Valley. $50,000 raised by the Hasidic Jewish community for the detective who lost his life in Jersey City yesterday. Now get this, they don't have phones, they don't have computers. They did it word of mouth, borrowing computers, borrowing phones, and they're not done yet. So we thank them for that. And the MTA, they're starting to withhold money from New Jersey Transit because the people who come from our neck of the woods and need to go over and work in New Jersey and use those trains, the service isn't very good. And of course, the impeachment hearings will come to a conclusion today. We know about that. Brexit. The Brits are definitely going to lose now or get out of the European Union, but they may not be Great Britain anymore. They may simply be, in another 3 to 5 years, simply England. All right, I know we have a caller already on hold. And we're going to open up our lines, 914-222-3141, 914-222-3141. You can talk about anything that your little heart desires. And if you have something fun you want to talk about because it's Friday, we'll do that too. Good morning. You are on Radio Westchester.
Hey, Bob, it's Anthony. How are you?
Hey, Anthony, how are you? Good morning. What's on your mind?
Friday the 13th, and I'm talking to you. I guess I got all my bad luck. I'm going to drink today.
I hope you're not headed to the doctor, are you? We got to keep you healthy.
Yeah. The new treatment is not working out too well, so I'm going to see you round 2. But that's neither here nor there.
Yeah, it is here.
Um,
Okay, go ahead, my friend. What's up?
um, I just wanted to make a couple of comments on things. First of all, I don't know if your other line's going directly to voicemail, just so you know.
Oh, is that right? Okay. Yeah. I'll.
Yeah.
Now, did it ring?
It rang 3 or 4 times and it
Okay.
went
You
to
know what?
voicemail.
You
I
know
tried
why?
three.
I didn't have. There's a certain volume cue that I keep up. Thank you for using this one. Go ahead and thanks for doing that. Let me fix that.
On the McCabe story about you calling him, you know what,
It was
because he.
inappropriate. I was. I should not have done
No, no,
that.
I'm not. No, no, that's not it. This is the format that you have chosen, and it's not your usual way of doing things, but it just showed how upset you were at the time.
Yes.
But let's look at it this way: did he lose his pension, or did he just lose the extra money on top of the guaranteed 20-year mark?
It was my understanding that he lost his pension, but I just found it mean spirited by the president, and I overreacted to that.
Well, guess what? When you're in a position where you serve at the pleasure of someone,
I
take the
know.
president out of it,
I
and
know.
that person feels that you are constructively working against them, they have the right to fire you at will, ad nauseum.
You know what? Even to his credit, even the FBI director Comey said that to the press. He said, "I serve at the president's pleasure. He has every right to do that." I know that, and of course you're correct. But I just, when a guy, and this is the working man in me. When a guy or a gal puts in his time and it's got a date of their pension, you want to fire him, you want to dock him, you want to do something. Go ahead and do it, but don't take his future away. But again, these
Yeah,
are
but
big boys. These are
let
big
me tell you
boys.
where let me tell you where you're inconsistent on this.
That I got
You
up this morning.
railed
Go ahead.
you
I'm sorry.
railed against civil service employees for years. So
Um,
how better to drive a point home that they're accountable than to do something like this to show them what the real private sector is facing.
that's true, but the FBI, who is doing it, perhaps doing its duty, and it happens to point in your direction. And again, it's certainly all been debatable what motives were, and I get all that. But when you're doing it because it's pointed at your direction, I think government has to be in that way different than. I say I don't think I'm being inconsistent here. I think it has to be different in this way than the private sector because when you're in government.
Not only do I okay, I'm sorry. Go
No,
ahead.
no, go ahead.
I thought
No,
you
no,
were done.
please go ahead.
Not only do I disagree, I think in light of the fact, and actually this is in hindsight, that it was proven that he was working against the president, makes it all that more poignant.
Well, it may well be, but here's my point, and bear with me on this. When you're the president of the, it's got to be hard. I get it. When you're the president of the United States, and this is Pollyanna, so no laughing is allowed. When you're the president of the United States or in a position in the Senate, you really have to fight the urge to do what's best for you, and only keep in mind the process that you are in charge. It's kind of like I'll tell you where I honor it. You are now. Forget that you and I are friends. People have figured that out. But you come at me pretty hard sometimes, and that's your prerogative. And some people will say to me, "Why do I allow that? You have the radio. You can do that." Because my principle is that is what we should do. It shouldn't be about Bob protecting his little self because he didn't know something Anthony did, or vice versa. But again, I know that that's Pollyanna-ish, though. I'm being
Yeah,
poly.
but I'm willing to bet you most of the people that give you that criticism, okay, are on the left side of the aisle, because that's the way they want to govern. They don't deal with people who disagree with them, especially people who are open and in your face.
No, but I
And
know
that's the
that.
problem here.
See, but
That's
I
the problem
respect
here.
that. Yes,
Okay?
but what I'm telling you
I
is
sent you
I think we have to do that. We need more of that. We need to get in one
right, but
another's faces.
right, and that's why the current president of the United States, is such a shock, such an enema, as I've said before,
I like
because
that term.
the government has gone so far, the country, the culture as a whole has gone so far to the left. The only way to try to swing them back to center is to give them a shock. And I just sent you an article, and it's a very short one.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Certainly by your standards, it's probably a paragraph. But you'll understand this. You'll get a little insight into psyche from someone who's on the right side of the aisle that lives in California.
They're in the right. They live in Cal. You mean they didn't fall off the cliff? Hey, can I ask you about another story? You know, because I just
Sure.
went there, and again, in the interest of being objective, it's hard because I mean no ill will towards excuse me, to Jared Rice. But is there anybody in New Rochelle that didn't know that deal was cut before the?
Robert, if you remember, I called that on your show the
A year and a
day
half
before
ago?
he announced he wasn't running for reelection. So that was so obvious. And don't get me wrong, Jared has a lot of
Oh,
accomplishments
sure. Yeah,
that
yeah.
to his credit, But here's the question one has to ask, and again, this is political because the way the chart is set up, the mayor has the right to
Every
appoint
right.
two of the three
Absolutely.
judges. The third one runs at large. Okay, but let's look at it at face value. Has he done enough to be awarded the position of a judgeship, which is guaranteed for 10 years?
My goodness.
A position that's guaranteed for 10 years.
Does it bother
And
you?
chances are they'll still be a Democratic at least mayor at that point who will probably reappoint him. So it's basically a position for life,
Oh, but you know
or
what's
I should say
interesting?
until 70, until forced retirement. I'm sorry.
Hey, no, you're gonna find this interesting. You got a moment here because it's just
Sure.
what you're talking about. A gentleman, you know, we're right here live at the train station. A gentleman, and I hope he's listening. He just from a passerby, he just handed me a piece of paper. And he said, "What's the difference between the MTA withholding money from New York Transit for bad performance and President Trump asking NATO members to increase their contribution? Any difference with asking Ukraine to explain why children of Democrats get big money and still no investigation into the true money trail?" Somebody was listening on his phone out in front of the station. Wow.
Well, I wasn't going to go there, but
No, go
since
ahead.
they touched on it,
Yeah.
here's a major problem I have today with the impeachment process.
Go ahead.
The Democrats have no balls.
You know what do you have to do it when I'm
Okay,
drinking something? No.
but how long have we been hearing quid pro quo?
No,
Then
and they
we
should have
had a
went with it. I know.
focus group who redefined it as bribery.
Hmm.
Now it's think about this, Bob. Obstruction of Congress.
I know. I
How
know.
watered down is that? Now think about this. Think about how the bar has been very low to begin with, okay? Because it's not defined. Nobody knows what a high crime and misdemeanor is. It is whatever
It's whatever
Congress
the
at that
Senate's
time
going to
says
say
it
it
is.
is. Hey, can I just say something
Okay.
here? I like my
Wait,
analogy
just let me
better.
finish my thought.
But then let
Let
me
me
give you
finish
my
my thought
analogy.
before you
Go ahead.
stop.
Go ahead.
Because my thought will fly out of my head in 3.5 seconds if I don't stay
It's,
on
it's
track.
a very short ride.
Absolutely, but that's like you saying, you had to get back on track this morning. You didn't have far to go when you fall behind.
Shut up.
But
Go ahead,
that's a whole nother
wise guy.
ballgame.
Go ahead, meathead.
Think how low the bar has now become because if we use obstruction of Congress as a basis for impeachment, any president
Yeah.
who issues an executive order can be considered obstructing Congress.
Yeah, I know. Well, here's my analogy for that one. They're bringing
Think about that.
they're bringing a knife fight to a gunfight. They should have waited and gotten all the other people. And I get it. Anyway, don't you think this is cool that someone listening in the phone on the street brought this up? This is pretty cool. And I hope you're listening again, caller, because this is why we're at the train station. And I gave this little speech yesterday, Anthony, about that all people are welcome. And I'm so glad he handed me this note. Listen, you travel safe, and if you're in the area, pop in. I want to. It's Christmas, but you can put like a Halloween vision on our cameras here. All righty, this is Radio Westchester, and Anthony had his say. You too can have yours. 914-222-3141. 222-3141. And I know it's the top of the hour, and we didn't do sports yet, and I just got to remind you that the sports stories today were very interesting. This guy, will someone call me and tell me, let me be sure I'm getting my listeners here, pardon me, that Lamar Jackson is not the future of football? Is he not changing the game? And I don't know in other sports. I know the 3-point shot in basketball changed that game. getting rid of clutching and grabbing and the de-emphasis of violence in hockey has changed that game. But no individual style of play. I guess the biggest thing in hockey is there was a time when the goalies were so, in fact, Vince Russo yesterday mentioned off air when we were preparing for today, there was a time when they wanted goalies to stand up and just use their legs to kick the puck, and if they went down, it was a bad thing because they couldn't get back up. The assumption was that you could only be a good goalie if you stood, and there were still some goalies who could be successful at that, but it was actually much harder. Anyway, maybe it was 20 years ago. I guess the guy was Dominic Kasich 20, 25 years ago, who sprawled and used the so-called butterfly. Now, there were predecessors to that, Glenn Hall and Roger Crozier, but so that was a big style change. I guess that's, in terms of style, that's probably the biggest change in that sport. And now Lamar Jackson. Now, there have been other people like Lamar who could run the ball, and I know there was another guy, I forget who he was, who once a quarterback ran for 1,000 yards. But I'm just amazed. Anyway, they just beat up on the Jets like rented mules last night. And no, I don't even fault the Jets for that one. Be nice to them. Meanwhile, the Islanders won again, 3-1, which means that Tom from Pelham is dancing around Pelham. He's got a great team, just doesn't have a good building, regular building to play in. And the Rangers, strangely, and we're happy for them because they've been playing, they're pretty decent now, but inconsistent. They were losing last night, and they got 4 unanswered goals in the third period. And probably no surprise to you that Mr. Arturi Panarin, the so-called bread man, got a hat trick. The Rangers haven't had anybody like this in quite a while, and when you see him and Zibanejad, I know that was Zibanejad. I keep thinking of the old, the guy that used to run around. At any rate, they're doing well. So those are the 3 big sports stories yesterday, and of course the other story is the former commissioner of the NBA had a stroke last night or some such thing, a brain hemorrhage, and is in serious trouble. Also, had emergency surgery. Godspeed to him. The Mets signed a guy used to be a very good pitcher, now just average for the back of their rotation. And the sweet news was, if anyone likes the Yankees or not, Gardner is one of those kinds of players that's just great for New York, great for the Yankees, and they re-signed him, 36-year-old center fielder for $12.5 million. So we're happy for him. And the story that's been on everybody's mind all week is, and again, this is in all great deference to what we all love, which is our market system. If someone could get $325 million, hey, well, he deserves it, just like, or does he? That is the question. Is anyone really worth that much money? But do you know when we'll know? If the ballpark's still full up, if Yankee Stadium still has 50,000, whatever the number is, 50,000 people there every night, 45,000 people on a bad day, in a rain day, and they get the baseball contracts, then it is. But wow, at what point is there a threshold, do you think, where baseball will finally, and I see, yeah, we did get that call, 6:58. Yeah, that call did come through, by the way, Anthony, if you're still listening. It's just that I didn't hear it. $325 million. That just seems to be a lot of money. Well, in another minute, we're going to be hearing from Vince Russo. We're going to ask him about that change in style and Lamar Jackson and things of that ilk, and also get his take on the impeachment and a couple of other things. Now, I got a little story here I wanted to share with you. I don't know if any of you ever get this Nutrition Action newsletter, but it really is very good. And it names names, which I like. But these are the 10 superstars, since we're going to be talking a little later about health, and we're going to do that at 8:20. Sweet potatoes. Everybody writes about sweet potatoes, you know, but I don't like them. If you're going to have sweets with dinner, you're supposed to have sweets after dinner. I prefer a regular one. Anyway. Mangoes are okay. Yogurt. I've never had a yogurt in my life. I just can't see myself eating bacteria, and everybody tells me I'm crazy. Broccoli. I'm one of the few people that loves broccoli. That and spinach. So, yes, that's good. I eat that. Wild salmon, that's good. Oatmeal, that's good. Garbanzo beans. They're rich in protein, fiber, copper, folate, iron, magnesium, potassium, and zinc. But garbanzos, they're chickpeas as well, by the way, same name, stand out because they're so versatile. Watermelon. Now, this is interesting. Heavy in weight, nutrient department. A standard serving about 2 cups is a third of the day's vitamins. Who knew? And a nice shot of potassium and a healthy dose of lycopene for only 90 calories. Butternut squash, something else I don't like, but it's supposed to be good for you. Steamed, a sliced squash, or peeled. And 10 leafy greens. So, let's see. Did we lose our 720 guest? Do we have to call him? I just thought, we'll do that. Why not? We'll wake him up. These people, they're going to be on the show. They are subject to being abused. And we shall do that. Where is he? All right, let's call him. All right, he's ringing. Oh, really? Okay, you want it now? They want. Oh, here he is. Good morning, Vince Russo.
Good morning, Robert.
Did I just call you, or did you call me?
Called you, buddy.
Okay, because I was calling you to annoy you. So there's something that I wanted to do. Welcome to the program, my friend. Have you been listening?
Only briefly.
Because the cool
I didn't,
go ahead, I'm sorry.
Didn't get up at 6 o'clock in the morning as you did.
Well, no, see, that's not nice. But at any rate, you know what's kind of cool? We've been talking about all these different things. The MTA today withholding money from New Jersey Transit because that service sucks. But listen to what this is. This is what we built the radio station for. So, a gentleman passes by the windows. He had a phone. I guess he was listening in his car, and he tore a page out of a book, and he wrote the following. And what's less important is the facts, but still, and that he's concerned and wants to participate. I love this. He said, "What's the difference between the MTA withholding money from a New Jersey Transit for bad performance and President Trump asking NATO to increase their contribution?" It's a fair question. Is there any difference with asking Ukraine to explain why children of Democrats get big money and still no investigation? I don't agree with that, but he's asking the questions into the true money trail. But isn't that cool? We need more of this. I should put like a box outside the window. Put your questions in the window. We got to get more creative with that. Or they can, you know what they can do? Like Martin Luther did. They can pin him to the church wall right here. We tape it in.
Good idea.
So anyway, a lot of stuff going on. I just don't know where to go anymore. But I want to start out with Brexit with you. You care about these things. Do you realize now that Boris Johnson, what a great name, Mr. Johnson. No, what did I say?
No. Boris. What British couple would name their child Boris? It's beyond me.
Hey, I got a relative whose last name and
brilliant.
No. I got a relative whose last name is Dick. So, and that's just a fact.
No.
Imagine that. My daughter married well, anyway. Let me
go ahead. Don't go there.
No, but it's true. That's his name.
I understand.
He kept it.
I understand.
He didn't change it to Willie or anything like that. Well, I guess he could have changed it to Johnson. That's all I'm suggesting. I'm going to make Anthony drive off the road. But one of the concerns I have, only because I fell in love with England, and but their empire is shrinking and may well shrink very much further. They may lose Scotland and Northern Ireland, and all it's going to be is England. The Welsh are they gave up. They don't fight the Brits anymore. And so it's going to be England and Wales, and really it's just going to be called England, and the UK will be dead.
Well, they've been heading in that direction way before Brexit. Obviously Ireland has been a contentious spot for many decades. And Scotland, as well, has been, trying to get independence. They had a vote a couple of years ago.
Yeah, we talked about that. Yep.
Where they slightly rejected independence.
Well, they're definitely go now. They will definitely go. But here's the thing. You can't have a legal referendum without Westminster saying you can with their seat of government. But what's done is they do it anyway, and it sends a huge message to the parent that, hey, we are officially not with you anymore, or ex officio, not with you anymore.
Yeah.
And that creates even greater problems, because one of the things about the European Union that they like, and I don't know if you heard Marrone, in fact, we're going to get him on Monday now, our European correspondent, is, for example, his sister. Marrone lives in the Netherlands, and his sister has a job in Spain. Doesn't need a passport. Just all she has to do is apply. She can go to the UK, doesn't need a passport right now, or Scotland, doesn't need to apply. And any other country in the European Union. They have the same currency, but of course you're subject to the rules of that body. So that's one of the upsides of to Brexit. The downside is if you don't agree with their immigration policies, you're stuck with them, et cetera, et cetera. There's no easy answer, but so Scotland may go. But the interesting thing in your reaction to this in Northern Ireland, they finally have peace and an open border between themselves and the Republic of Ireland. The possibility for those two becoming one country, now that's fascinating.
Well, generally the people of Northern Ireland don't want to be part of the Irish Republic.
Yeah. Yes.
If they did, they would have been long ago. Because they're Protestants up there in those number of counties, and the Republic of Ireland is predominantly Catholic, and they don't want to be united with them. And one of the things about Brexit is that they feel, again, as you just pointed out, that there may be a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland as this goes forward. But Bob, the basis for Brexit was this free immigration among countries.
Yes, I know.
Because Great Britain saw this wave of immigration from the Middle East and North Africa that just stampeded across Europe. And, once these people, the interesting thing about it is, once these people made their way into any EU country, and whether that entry was legal or not, they then had free access to every other EU country. And the Brits said, this is baloney. We're not going to put up with this. They saw that the Netherlands got overrun with Muslims from North Africa, and all the problems in France and Germany and all these places. And they said, we're not going to do this. The Brits kind of were sort of in the EU and sort of not. The one thing that they never did was adopt the euro. And I think they were absolutely right to do that. Because, you can't tie your economy to somebody else's economy without having any control over that.
Absolutely.
It's like here in the United States, we give money to the federal government, and the federal government then doles it out. And of course, states like Alabama and Mississippi and West Virginia get more money than states like New York.
Well, in their case, perhaps more than they know how to count.
Well,
I'm
true.
sorry.
but at least the larger states that are contributing have some say, in elections, et cetera. Whereas in Great Britain, imagine the economy tied, of West Virginia being tied into the economy of New York or California, where it could pull that whole economy
well,
down.
yeah. And plus, there's another element, too. I know you've been to the UK a couple of times. I spent an extensive amount of time there. They view themselves as separate from Europe, and it's something that you got to be there because it is an island, and it has one of the more distinct cultures on the planet. It once ruled the planet. They didn't even, I remember when we did, and we were both on Wall Street then at the time. I don't know if you were exactly when we did the euro, but one of the things that used to come up constantly, imagine having the same currency but different political systems. That's rife with problems. But
yeah, and that's what you have in the EU. I think that those were the two biggest factors why they want to withdraw from the EU. However, I think it was very not very well thought out. I don't think they ran through the whole scenario as to, okay, so if we pull out of the EU, what happens? I mean, I think that they felt that it was going to be, well, status quo, except that we're just not in the EU. trade and all of this was going to continue the way it is, et
Yeah,
cetera, et
well,
cetera.
the way I've
And
framed
it's
it
not.
is that they wanted to leave the EU but keep all the benefits. You know, guess what? When you
Well,
leave the wife, she gets half the money, and you don't get the benefits anymore. You know, it's
exactly. So I think it's a thorny question, and I think what's happening now is people in the UK are saying, "Hey, wait a minute. We really maybe we didn't think this through enough. Maybe we have to slow down a little bit
no, it's too
and
late now.
re
It's over.
and reconsider it." Well, I mean, they can. I don't know. I mean, there's supposed to be. They keep moving these hard deadlines.
No, but yeah, but a lot has to do with the vote yesterday. He didn't just win; he sprayed a giant can of whoop ass on the Labor Party. I mean, it's over. I mean,
I like that.
it was raining. I mean, the people have spoken. You know, GTFO to the liberals. See ya. Don't let the door hit you in the butt.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my goodness, Boris Johnson. I can't help
Well,
myself.
it's as much as I have a great affinity for the British people, because I feel that the United States only has four or five true allies: Great Britain, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and the rest are dependents. They're not allies. Um, that being said, the British have a lot to answer for. If you look at
Oh, I
every
know.
trouble spot in the world, it's because they caused it. The Middle East, they caused it. India, Pakistan, Bangladesh,
You know, and, and
they caused it.
and they and we are the ones that lied to the poor Kurds. You know.
Well, yeah, that's another policy. But so it's hard to feel sorry for them when they created this current situation throughout the world with imperialism and colonialism and all of that kind of
Do
stuff.
you know
And
that was a great deal? We got to go soon. That was a great deal of the tension that existed, even though famously Churchill got along with Roosevelt. That was always a bone of contention that they kept at arm. They bickered about, and they kept at arm's reach, where the president of the United States was always trying to disabuse the Brits of being imperialists when that defined them. So
yeah, it did define them. And if you look at all of these situations, I mean, Israel and Palestine. I mean, is the classic one.
well, I think I
India
told
and
you this.
Pakistan as well.
Yeah, I told you.
Because
Go ahead, Bill.
they the Balfour Declaration,
Yeah.
declared the state of Israel, and the Palestinians are going, wait a minute, this is our land,
tough, tough tiddlies.
and the Brits are going, we don't care, we'll do what the heck ever we want. Uh,
Well, what was well, no, I know what I want to say. If you've There are parts like Tooting Bec and other parts of London where in this country we say, hey, gee, look, this town is it could be very Latino or very Italian. Well, in major parts of London, it is extremely Pakistani. Lots
yeah,
and lots of Pakistanis in London. There's a whole neighborhood there in Tooting Bec, and they run the stores, and it's fine and it's peaceful, but it is different. It ain't just the Brits saying, "Hey, mate," very
well,
different stuff.
it's interesting you say that. When I was at Merrill, I did a little stint up in Canada with some training, and the lady I worked with, she was from Great Britain, and she had both she was from Great Britain, and she had free access to all of the Commonwealth countries, so she could travel wherever she wanted to within
Yes.
the British Commonwealth. And what happened was, in microcosm, what's happening in the EU, the the British Parliament put a stop to that because of Pakistan,
Hmm.
because all they were having a bunch of Pakistanis going to free access to all of these countries. That's how in London and other areas in Great Britain there are big Pakistani
You
populations
got
because
30 seconds.
they could just freely travel there. And the British Parliament said, no, 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 no. we don't want exist anymore, and that's why they stopped that free access in
Well, we can talk
uh,
about that whole Pakistan thing. One of the great things in history, the old line of no good deed goes unpunished. The greatest example of that in history were his fellow Hindus killing Gandhi because he separated the country. He got them free from England. He gave
yeah,
Pakistan their own country. He made peace and died for it. It's
word,
amazing.
yeah,
Well, listen,
it
I've
is.
got to go. Thank you very much, Vince. We will talk to you. That's
All right,
Vince
Bob.
Russo, everybody. He's a political analyst and a life commentator. He's just someone it's fun to have on the show. And now we are going to call back. This is great the way we do this. We're geniuses here at Radio Westchester. It is 7:36. You're listening to Radio Westchester. Our next guest, she's the managing editor and publisher of the Westchester County Post.com. She's a jazz singer, a health professional. She does so many things that we could put her on our wheel that we're going to use later when we do Jake's Football's Picks of the Week and say, what is she today? Please welcome Janelle Albritton. Good morning, Janelle.
Good morning, Bob. How are you?
Better now. I'm talking with you. How could I not be doing well? How is everything going? How was your gig last night?
We didn't sing last night. We will be on at Old Stone Mill Denapolis Old Stone Mill on next week on the 19th.
You got to come. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah. I was just going to say there's also a benefit for Pepe. Pepe, I've got to remember his last name. He's a famous singer, Pepe Cardona.
Yeah.
He's been diagnosed with cancer, and so there's going to be fundraisers for him at the Denapolis Stone Mill next week. So for tickets, folks can get on the website denapolisstonemill.com to reserve a ticket.
Okay, make that more formal and make that appeal right now. Let's get it out to people, and maybe we can have you on early next week to talk about it again, or someone from the Stone Mill. But tell us who this man is and what you need to do and how we're going to help.
Wonderful. Well, I admit I don't have a press release all written out, so I may not get it all right. But so the call to action is to get on the website Denapolis Stone Mill, and there's going to be some fundraisers there next week.
Mm-hmm.
And we're just raising money for him to help him,
Yeah, there's going to be lots of bills.
A little easier.
Yeah, okay. Now, let's get back to you. What are your top stories? What are you working on?
Well, I'm very excited. Personally, I just ordered a brand new juicer because I did a lot of research, and I found a guy who's an expert on juicers, of all things. And he actually knows about Anthony William and medical medium and the importance of being able to juice celery by itself on a daily basis. And he recommended a particular machine that I just placed an order for. So I'm very excited about that. I should have it next week.
What about the debate between smoothies and juicers? We've read, doesn't mean, everybody has different opinions, but you can elaborate for us, that smoothies are even better because you get more, I guess, more of the density of the beneficial ingredients. Is that true, or are they equal?
Well, when you have a blender, you're blending up all the peel and the seeds and everything. So you do get more fiber when you have a smoothie than with juicing. However, the issue that I'm looking at right now has to do with oxidization. So when you've got a slow juicer with a blade that's going around, between 40 and 80 revolutions per second, it's going to be less oxidative stress on the stuff that you're juicing.
Now, can I put bourbon in there?
Absolutely. You can put anything you like in there.
That would be terrific, to be doing healthy and then get a couple of hits of bourbon in there. I think
I would think vodka would be more pure to the.
Okay, no, I'm just saying. I'm not much of a drinker. I mean, I like the taste of bourbon, but I don't know. Anyway, so well, that's pretty good. So you bought your juicer, but again, you got to talk to this guy. Tell him to not use the word medium. It takes away from his. Obviously, there's science here, but it takes away from his credibility. But that's just me being a snarky talk show host. What else are you up to?
Oh, I'll win you over. There's an institute called Institute of Noetic Science.
What's
and
noetic mean? I've seen that. What's noetic mean?
Noetic has to do with basically looking at people's human experience and looking at energy work and all that woo-woo stuff that my New Yorker friends like to laugh at, and examining how it actually might be effective. And I was very excited to see, well, such as tapping. I was very excited to see that the Institute of Noetic Science is offering a workshop on EFT, on the tapping that I teach people, and how effective it is for helping people shift their clarity about an experience and how they tell the story of surviving a traumatic, incident.
But does meditation do that as well? Is that a part of the noetic sciences?
Meditation is part of it. They study meditation as well, but tapping is not meditation. Tapping is.
I'm tapping the microphone for you now. Can you hear it?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm sure the microphone feels better.
Do you feel better? My guest, let me remind people, my guest is Janelle Albritton. She's a public health professional, has a master's in public health. She's talking about some of that work that she does in that area now. She's the managing editor and publisher of the Westchester County Press.
You can do it.
Yeah, Westchester County Post.com. Continue, please,
there you go.
boss lady.
Okay.
And well, by the way, she's a wonderful jazz singer with a velvety voice. Continue.
Velvety, I like that.
Yeah,
I'm going to be.
That's why it's possible you convince me of anything. Continue.
So let's see. What I was going to say about the smoothies versus blending is that what I've been learning recently in my own research is that when using a regular blender, there's lots of oxidative stress because the blade is moving so fast and it's creating heat and it's destroying some of the more delicate enzymes. And there's a special kind of blender called a vacuum blender where it pulls the air out of the top of the pitcher so that you don't have the oxidative process happening. I don't know a lot about it yet. I just learned about it a couple of days ago when I was researching for my new juicer, which is going to be on the way. Now, by the way, the juicer that is said to work the best, according to discountjuicers.com, is the Omega VSJ 843.
843. Okay. Now you came on today. Where's all this obsession with juicing coming from? I mean, it's been at the top of your queue today.
I've been doing it for a few years now, and the juicer that I bought for about $100 did an okay job. I call it my little starter machine because I wanted to be sure it was
No, I know. But what I want you to do, forgive me, what I want you to do is tell people what the benefits of juicing are in the first place, because you've told them you're describing the gun, but what does it do? What does it do for me?
Well, so the celery juice, when taken by itself on an empty stomach, and you don't ingest anything for at least half an hour after you drink the juice. Anthony Williams talks about it has certain kind of salts in it that help with the immune system. It helps reduce problems in the gut. It helps repair the gut lining. It helps to balance the hormones. And people who are taking it every day say that they feel better after just a few days of trying it.
Now, have you had the kind of tests that separate out, for example, what is placebo and whatnot? Has it been through that yet? I know it's good for you, juicing, and everybody says it is, but what kinds of tests have been done and evaluations?
Nobody will probably. I'm pretty sure no one is going to want to spend a lot of money on testing celery juice. There's no money in it.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
They can't put it in a bottle. And the thing is,
what's
Anthony
it taste
Williams
like?
talks about it tastes if you eat a nice green crunchy piece of celery, it tastes like that times about 200.
Wow. Okay.
It's that flavor of celery, but it's in a glass, and
I'm not excited.
Even the farmers talk about, they don't make a lot of money growing it. The wholesaler, the middleman usually is probably the one who makes more money, but people are trying to powder it. They're trying to bottle it, create elixir.
But you
doesn't
obviously believe in it because you push it pretty strongly. Again, our guest is Janelle
I do.
Albritton. We've got your. By the way, I think your deputy of sports has been trying to get in. Well, please wait. If you wait just another 5 minutes, while we're talking with Janelle, and then we'll patch you into the phone. I know he's tried to get in a few times.
Sure.
I can't put you on the same number at the same time. You got to use a separate number if you want to come on together. Janelle Albritton's with us. So tell us what's the latest with the newspaper.
Well, I'm very excited. As you know how it is, you're working on the technology. I am ramping up starting this coming week to send out weekly emails to many thousands of people that I've been gathering emails for, and it's going to be free. It's going to be great stories. We're shifting away in the sports from Notre Dame to talking more about NFL. And Steve and I are going to be revisiting the issue of the chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And
yes, of
looking
course.
at how the participation is dropping in Westchester County because parents are beginning to realize.
You're talking about participation in football? Participation
yes.
in football? Okay.
And any sports that there's risk for head injury, girls playing lacrosse, that's on the list as well. So just paying attention to subconcussive injuries. It's the smaller, jarring hits that cause damage over time, especially for youth, especially the young ones, under the age of 16.
Wow. Well, that's important.
So it's a real problem. The brain damage starts very young.
Wow. It does start very young.
What
else are you going to be writing about?
Oh, let's see. So many things. So many things. I am doing some research on more nutrition. I actually am featuring the 18-step healing path, talking about a multifaceted approach to transforming your life, not only from what you're eating, but what you're thinking and how you're relating to people, and the self-care that we do for ourselves. That's one thing. Another thing is, fun thing I did on Wednesday. I partnered with Montefiore here in Mount Vernon, and I was in the cafeteria making smoothie samples for the employees.
Wow, that's a pretty good thing
so that
to do.
Was fun.
Well, we're going to move on and talk a little sports with your partner in crime, Steve Callis. We have a lot of stuff to go over with him. Janelle, thank you very, very much. And we'll talk to you
My
again
pleasure.
next week. Take care. Janelle Albritton, everyone. Go out and
Bye-bye.
get your juicers. And remember to also read the Westchester County. I got to get this right. The Westchester County Post. I got it, westchestercountypost.com. All righty. We know that someone's been trying to reach us. We kind of know who it is, so we'll ask them to hold while we do a reset. It is 7:49. It's 32 degrees here across Westchester County. 32 degrees, and we're going to share the weather with you right now. It's 32, getting up to 47 today. It is overcast, but they're telling us we have a participation likelihood of 80% because wet weather alert. Cloudy skies this morning with rain developing towards mid to late morning. Expect off and on rain through the afternoon, maybe light to moderate in nature. Temperatures will rise to the 40s tonight, getting up to about 48 at about midnight, but it still be cloudy with periods of moderate rain. Now tomorrow, heavy downpours during the morning will give way to scattered rain in the afternoon, warm and high around 58 degrees. Sunday, a mixture of sun and clouds. Windy winds out of the west at 20 to 40 miles an hour. That's a significant gust, but it'll stay pretty warm, about 47. And of course, the sun will be out Monday. A mixture of sun and clouds. The high around 38. And the weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. This bottom half of the hour is supported by Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Payne and Kahn, Plug-in Virtual Reality, and Dominic Cigars, who will bring you Jake's Picks of the Week. In fact, we invite Jake right now as we bring on Steve Callis to enjoy talking sports with us, with Steve, before we get to Jake's Picks of the Week at 8 o'clock. And also, Jake, something I want to say to you before we even put other people on. You opened up our brains about Lamar Jackson.
Yes.
1,100 yards, and the season's only two-thirds over. He's I took a risk today, and I want your reaction to this, and then we're going to ask Steve about it. Is he redefining the position? Is he changing the nature of football?
He's the most exciting player, I think, in the NFL right now, but I think he's along the lines of Randall Cunningham or Mike Vick.
Okay, so there are other people. I remember Michael Vick. Is he better than Vick?
Too early to tell.
Too early to tell.
Michael Vick was very, very good.
All right, well, you stay right there, and you're going to need your headphones because we bring with us now, he is the editor, the sports editor for the Westchester County Post.com. Please welcome Steve Callis. Good morning, Steve.
Morning, Bob. Great to be with you, as always.
Oh, it's always great to be with you. Now, I knew you would hear that question, and I couldn't wait to get your reaction because you and Jake have opened my eyes to this guy. I love people that change the dimensions of a sport. And how possible is it that there'll be more and more Lamar Jacksons, or are they that scarce?
Well, they're scarce, but I think he's the extension of Michael Vick or Randall Cunningham, as Jake said. I think it's the future. I guess the concern is, are you going to be able to do what he did? I'm sure you watched the game last night. He took a couple of brutal hits. And I don't know if he can do what he does for 10 years. He's not going to be doing this at 38, 40, 42 like you'd see Brady or other older guys. But yeah, I think he is the most exciting player. Their running game, it looks like kind of a college triple option from 50 years ago or something. But nobody can stop them. And after what they did to the Patriots, I think that was the game, frankly. Patriots defense, I should say. That's the game where he kind of came on the national level, and they haven't lost since then, and it's going to be very, very tough to beat them. I think the way to beat them is, the Jets didn't play terribly. They're just totally overmatched. But if you can get some long drives, keep them off the field, this is going to be, if it comes to in the playoffs, the Bill Belichick Giants against Buffalo, you'll recall, where they kept the ball for 38 minutes or something, and that's how they could beat Jim Kelly in that offense. But no, he is the most exciting player. I think he is kind of changing it, but you see guys like Mahomes, they're not Lamar Jackson, but they can do kind of what he does. These quarterbacks are here, Deshaun Watson, and what he did to the Patriots right after Lamar Jackson did it to the Patriots. So I think the future is now, but again, I think the long-range question mark is, can these guys do this for 3 years, 5 years, 7 yeyears, 10 years? I don't think they can do it for 10 years.
Because
we're going to have to wait and see. So
they're not necessarily changing the nature of position. There are more ways to skin a cat. Whereas in hockey, and I brought up hockey only because we had in our sport, we had a sea change after a man by the name of Dominic Hasek took something that, if you remember the old-timer Glenn Hall and another one, Roger Crozier, they were the first two goalies to use the butterfly. Yep. And one coach, this is an absolute true story, a coach, this is when there were only 6 NHL teams, and you'll find this interesting, Jake, coming from Syracuse where they had this league. There was a team called the Springfield Indians in the second best league in the world when there were only 6 NHL teams, and it was run by Hall of Famer Eddie Shore. And he so wanted his goalies to not go down, to just use their legs to stop, that he actually connected a rope, Jake, from the goal light and put it around Hank Basson's neck so that if you go down. And so they changed the nature of goaltending. Now a major part of the sport is to go down and butterfly. And I'm wondering if anywhere else in sports, and that's why I was using Lamar Jackson, is there anything other than the three-point shot that has changed the sport as much as that?
Well, I would say that something that changed the sport in football was the soccer-style kicker. Because if you wanted to compare then and now in all sports, what's the most improved facet of any sport in any game? I think it's the field goal kicker. If you watch those real old films where these guys are going straight on, it's almost like prehistoric compared to what it became. The other thing I'll say about the goalies is, you know this, Bob, they used to call them floppers. It was almost
Yeah.
viewed as a negative
Oh,
way
yeah.
back when. And the guy I remember coming into the league was Dryden, who came out of Cornell.
Yes.
And there weren't a lot of, you're right, Glenn Hall was maybe the first, you'd know better than me.
Glenn Hall was.
But they used to be, you know, my father told me you wonder how guys could play without masks through the 20s and 30s and 40s till Boom Boom Jeffrion, I think it was, hit Jacques Plant, or maybe it was Andy Bathgate, hit Jacques Plant in the face.
Broke his nose.
And then he came out with the mask. But my father used to say there was almost an unwritten rule that the goalies never went down and the shooters never shot above the crossbar.
Well, the only time they shot high was to scare a goalie, and Hull would admit to doing that. Bobby Hull would say, I shoot high once in a while so the goalie will flinch when I wind up later in the game.
Right. Well, I can tell you, Bobby Hull, when I was a very little kid, and my father was a hockey fan since the late 20s, when Bobby Hull and Stan Mikita first used the curved sticks, and you know the story, I'm sure, they used to curve them under their hotel door.
Yeah, absolutely.
And there was no ban. And you could see, and this is going back to the old Garden, you could see the hook on their sticks from the balcony. And back then, when these guys shot, goalies were ducking, with or without masks, because you never knew what the puck was going to do. Now, they've regulated that. But the scariest thing I've ever seen in sports is Bobby Hull in the slot with a curved stick.
Oh, yeah.
And this is way before Gretzky and everybody else, and you know all about this. But, yeah, the goalie in hockey is one, but I think the biggest change has been in field goal kicking in the history of the sport, and I would say that for any sport, that's the biggest improvement.
Well, let me ask this of you and Jake. How much did the distance change? How further do they kick, and how more accurate are they?
Oh my goodness! Well, I'll leave it to Jake, but it's much greater.
Go ahead,
now.
Jake.
I think the guy with the half a foot, does he still have the record for longest field goal?
Tom Dempsey. No,
Tom
I think
Dempsey.
that was broken. Was it Tucker who broke it? Somebody kicked at 64, I think,
Good
last
grief.
year or the year before.
Good grief. Just amazing. And then one of the things that's underrated, well, when I say underrated, probably under the radar, aren't there some guys that are just on the team because they're good ball holders, where they get the ball and I know, even some quarterbacks have done that. The guy that takes the snap for the kicker. Are there any specialists?
It's usually the punter, but I know what you're saying, and it is a skill. I mean, look at poor Tony Romo. Remember, he was holding on that field goal when Parcells was the coach, and he couldn't even get the first down, and they lost the playoff game they should have won, and like the Cowboys were never the same. I don't even know if Parcells was ever the same. But yeah, the holder is a very important piece of the puzzle to get the ball down and get the laces facing out. So yeah, he's a very the holder and the whole center holder kicker. It's not as easy as everybody thinks.
Oh God, no.
And you're seeing it on extra points this year because the extra point is like a real field goal now. It's not 10 yards, to kick, or 12 yards, whatever it used to be, or 15 yards. Now it's a real kick.
It is a real kick. We're talking with Steve Callis. You know him from radio stations and TV stations around the region, ESPN Radio of note. He also is the sports editor for the Westchester County Post.com. 2 games from last night, and then we have a couple of other issues about signings. No, let's go to the big enchilada. $325 million. I would lick the highway from L.A. to New York to get that money. 300, and I can't even imagine. I remember when I guess it was Nolan Ryan signed for $250,000. I almost passed out.
Cole's only getting $170 after taxes. That was just announced.
Well, gee.
Well, maybe he's going to move to Florida, Jake, so you can save on the taxes as well.
What's your take on it? And I guess you see, a ball player should make whatever he or she can make, but we're paying for it at the end of the day, aren't we? We can't afford to go to games.
That's the problem. I mean, when I was a kid, I went to the old Yankee Stadium and sat in the bleachers with my old man, and we went 35 times a year. And even Knicks and Rangers at the Garden, as you know, Bob. But when my kids were young, my kids are mid-20s now, but when they were young, we'd go 2 or 3 times a year. I actually took my son out to the bleachers once just to show him in the right center field bleachers where we sat my whole life. And you'll remember in the old stadium, you couldn't even walk from the bleachers to any other seat in the house. You just walked out at the end of the
No,
day.
yeah, you were.
Out. You walked in front of the monuments and got to touch them. I mean, that was a big deal when I was a kid.
You were
But
entrapped.
now the prices of family of four to go. I remember I went to a Ranger game once, maybe 5 years ago. Sat in the 10th row with my kid, and I looked at it. And my father got season tickets when the new garden opened. We sat in the balcony. First row was $4 a seat. Second row was $3 a seat.
Do you remember Geo
cards? I did not have a Geo card. I'm old, but I guess I'm not that old. But we sat in the second row, $3 a seat. And I remember looking at the ticket, 5 years ago, 10 rows from the garden. I said to my son, "This is a season ticket." When the new garden opened, it's just total lunacy. Now, as you know, back in the day when Mantle, Koufax and Drysdale held out for 100,000 combined,
it was huge.
And it was like, oh my goodness, 100,000. And if these guys play today, it's the old Joe DiMaggio story that Mickey Mantle used to tell. He'd knock on Steinbrenner's door. Steinbrenner would open the door and he'd say, "Hi, partner, how are you?" That's a great story. I don't know if it could have been true, I guess. But
it just may well be.
It's crazy now, but I think the limit has been set with Mike Trout for position players because nobody comes close to him. And Garrett Cole, it kind of reminds me of 2009. Remember the Yankees signed Sabathia? They gave him all that money.
Sure.
They signed Teixeira. They gave him all that money. They signed A.J. Barnett, and they gave him all that money. And they won in 2009. Is it worth one World Series for the money that they
in fact,
I don't know the answer.
As I've reduced it to with Jake, one of the best relievers in baseball throws 102 miles an hour, decides to throw a breaking pitch, and you lose one pitch from going to the World Series, and you spend all this money over one pitch. I think it's nuts. And one last comment about that, and then I'll ask you very quickly about the two games last night, is I've gone to one major league game in the last 10 years. And I sat in the upper regions of Shea Stadium. I might as well have gone to LaGuardia and got on an airplane. It was useless. The players, because that's a very vertical stadium, the players were ants. I had to park under a highway, cross 4 lanes, run to the front door, run up 6, and pay $80 for I'm exaggerating, a hot dog. Why would anybody want to do that?
Well, plus with the coverage they have today on TV, it's you asked the question again, why would you do it? And I think from my perspective, having gone to all of these things a lot from a family with very little money, it was like a given. Nowadays, you go once or twice, it's like a highlight thing.
No, you go to Double A.
We'll go twice.
We don't have Triple A because the city would be too big to be too close. But you go to a Double A ballpark, and you know what? If you forget the names on the back, there ain't no difference, believe me. 8:03. The games that took place last night, the other local sports, the Rangers come from behind last night, and Panarin gets 3 more goals, and the Fort never lose. Well, actually got 2 forts, one in Brooklyn and one in Long Island. What say you about that?
Well, the Rangers are up and down. I mean, this Georgiev, I think they think he's the goalie of the future. He's won 3 in a row, 4 of his last 5. San Jose, frankly, as you know, is not very good. They just fired Peter DeBoer literally a few days ago after competing for a cup. I mean, I don't know what's happened to them. I haven't seen them enough. But even though Panarin had 3 goals and Zibanejad had 2 goals, I thought the goal of the game was that Jasper Fast goal. He had a beautiful pass from Hedel. Going to the net. I thought that was the best goal. It was the first goal the Rangers scored, so it kind of got lost in the shuffle when you have another guy who scores 2 and another guy who scores 3. So, I think the Rangers, look, I know you guys mocked me on air last time, but I picked them to be 7th or 8th and make the playoffs. And unlike the NBA, as you know, in the NHL, if you get the hot goaltender,
you can go
win
somewhere.
From the 7 or
you
8
know what?
You can't do it.
We're going to stop mocking you now. All right, very quickly, because I only got another minute. What about the New York Islanders?
I don't know what to tell you. I'm a Ranger fan. I think Barry Trotz is the best coach. He's on his way to being a Hall of Fame coach because he got the Washington Capitals over the hump. Nobody could do it before, and it's looking to me like nobody's going to do it since. For the Capitals, I'm talking about, and what he's done, after they lost their best player up to the Maple Leafs. I think it's a miracle, but it's all defense and goalie based. Grice is a really good goalie. I don't think they had last time we talked about this a week or two ago. I looked; they didn't have a scorer in the top 30, so it's not about scoring for the Islanders. But you have to give them credit. It's almost old-time hockey.
It's about a system. Steve Callis, thank you very much. We'll talk to you again next week. Don't forget to read him in. He's the sports editor for the Westchester County Post.com. Thank you very much. And folks, do you know what it's time for? Do you know where we're going now? It's time for Jake's Picks of the Week. And Jake's Picks of the Week brought to you by Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente Padrons and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. Good morning, Jake. Now, a couple of things. I know you won the Giant game Monday night. We talked about that on the air. I guess it was Wednesday. Did you have a horse in last night's game, or did you lay off that?
Laid off it, but I would have taken the Jets. They were 17-point underdogs. I would have been all over the Jets. Thank God I did not.
Thank goodness you did. Well, it's time then for your picks of the week. Shall we spin the wheel?
Spin the wheel. We need to determine the wheel's records so far.
Okay, and the wheel says?
It's still going. It has the Lions, and that is one of my picks as well.
The Lions, okay, one of your picks. Where you going with the pick? Who are the Lions playing?
Well, I'm going all underdogs this weekend, Bob. The Lions are a home underdog, which is my favorite thing. A home underdog by 3.5 to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
So you're keeping the Lions?
Yes, I will take the
so
Lions
you
along with the wheel.
Okay, the wheel. You're giving how much or getting?
Getting 3.5 at home against the Bucs.
Okay. Are you ready for the second game?
I am.
And the wheel says?
Cowboys. Interesting. I thought about that game.
You thought about now. The wheel wants the Cowboys, and who are the Cowboys playing?
Cowboys are a home underdog. Like I said, one of my favorite things. They are getting 1.5 points at home against the Rams. Very good game.
Well, you're going to do? Is that one of your games?
Well, not
or
one
just
of my
give
games.
That to the wheel?
I thought about taking the Cowboys, but I really don't have an idea about that.
Okay, what's your second game? Because the wheel gets 4 and you get 4.
I will take another underdog. The Dolphins are on the road. They are getting 3.5 points against the Giants. I will take the Dolphins. I think I like their coach a lot. The Dolphins seem to be playing really hard, and we all know about the Giants.
We all know. So you're going to take you get, or you're giving
get
3.5?
3.5. I'm taking all underdogs this week.
You get 3.5 against the Giants? They're that bad? Did they win any games, the Dolphins?
Yeah, I think they've won 4 games so far.
Oh, but it's a home game for the Giants.
Home game for the Giants.
Oh, and it's time for the wheel. And the wheel says, my voice says, da-da-da-da-da. Okay, what do you got?
Bears.
Is that one of your games?
That is not one of my games.
But the wheel wants the Bears. What's the Bear game?
The Bears are in Green Bay. They are 4.5-point underdogs in Green Bay.
Wow. So 4.5. The wheel. We'll see how the wheel does.
I like the Packers in that one, but I didn't pick that game.
Okay, let's get the other game. Jake's picks. Well, no, the wheel pick number 4. Can fate do as well as Jake?
Well, the wheel picked the Jets, and we all know what happened, so maybe you want to...
We'll go to the next one. That one we'll pass on.
Well, it's contradicted itself because it's picking the Buccaneers.
No, we got to do another one. You can't take 2, wheel. And the wheel says?
We need to touch up the wheel. The wheel says the Raiders.
The Raiders. Is that one of your games?
No, it is not. The Raiders are at home. They are 6.5-point favorites against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Okay, so now let's go to Jake's pick. What does Jake pick? The wheel has done its job.
All right, call me crazy, but I will take the Bengals at home getting 10 points against the Patriots.
What?
I'll take the Bengals. I'll take that 10 points.
We got to get Brady on you're taking 10 with the Bengals. What's their record?
Bengals have 3 wins, I believe, 2 wins.
All right, so let's do Jake. Since this is Jake's picks of the week, what are your picks? Let's go down the line for Jake's picks of the week.
And
number 1.
Well, I got one more. I'll take the Sunday night game. The Bills are in Pittsburgh getting 2 points. I will take the Bills, and I'll take the 2 points. I think the Bills will win that game.
Over Pittsburgh. Okay, let's go backwards. And give us your games.
All right, I'll take the Dolphins in New York getting 3.5 against the Giants. Lions a home underdog by 3.5 to the Bucks. The Bengals getting 10 at home against the Patriots, and the Bills in Pittsburgh getting 2.
Bengals at home against the Patriots. What are you getting? How many? 9?
10.
10. And what you doing? 5 games this week.
No, it's only 4.
Bills, Dolphins, Lions, Bengals. Oh, that's it? Okay.
4.
No, okay. And the Wheel's got one of the same games you do. So the Wheel's got. Let me see. The Wheels got...
Lions, Cowboys, Bears, and Raiders.
Okay, you've got that down. All right, what's your lock of the week?
This one's tough.
Lock of the week.
So I'm taking all underdogs this week.
What's the lock of the week? Jake's Lock of the Week coming up and brought to you by Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrons, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont, open 7 days.
I like the Lions at home. They're a scrappy defensive team. Tampa Bay's lost their best player.
For 3.5 points, Jake's picks. All right. Jake, you've done a fine job. We're going to ask a couple of other things of you now and turn off the music before we go to our next guest who's coming on at 8:20. Some of the other sports stories we did today, you saw what do you think was the impact of the former basketball commissioner who now has, I don't know if you know, last night he had a hemorrhage, a stroke.
I did hear about that.
What say you about him?
Well,
he ushered the game into the three-point play, and it's marketed all over the world. I know that much about him.
Yeah, he really reinvented basketball, I guess.
Stern, he really did.
Yeah, in the 80s.
Do you know he was the mentor to the guy that runs hockey now?
Oh, really?
Stern,
I didn't know that.
I think he was his deputy before he moved to the other side. Now, what about the Mets signing, what's this guy's name? Bakari or whatever.
Waka?
Yeah.
And they got
No,
Porcello.
Porcello.
Yeah.
What about that signing? Only $10 million. He won a Cy Young once. What happened to him?
Yeah, he won the Cy Young a few years ago in Boston. I like what the Mets are doing. They're just putting arms on the team. Going to chew out the innings. I think it's a good idea.
But 6 starters, do you think there are more moves to be made? I mean, that's an awful lot of starting pitching.
They can use some of those guys in the bullpen for long relief. They don't really have they're not that strong in the back of the bullpen, so they're just going to use those guys to chew up the innings.
Okay, there's a rumor that Betances could well sign with the Mets. They could use him.
Yes, they could. He's very good. He's a great play.
Why are the
pitcher.
Yankees not trying to re-sign him? I mean, I know they have a lot of relief, but why are they not trying to re-sign him? Or are they? But they're going to be outbid because they laid out all this money.
Yeah, I think they're not really worried about pitching anymore. Well, they could always use it. They have a good enough bullpen. I think they're fine.
You think they're okay? So then we go there. Now, the Yankees, if we can go back to that just for a little bit, they have re-signed Brett Gardner. Now, what happens to Gardner when Aaron Judge and these other people who are Hicks, I guess it is, when he comes back, when the center fielder comes back? He's just another utility guy for $12 million?
Fourth outfielder, but we saw how banged up the Yankees were last year. If it wasn't one guy, it was the next guy. So Gardner's a good, safe player to have. Not very injury prone.
Okay. Why don't you do
Useful player.
So why don't we do, what else do you think is going to happen? I don't think the world is done yet with free agency with respect to baseball.
I know it's happened so fast. Usually you have to wait towards the end of the winter for the big signings, but just all 3 of those guys gone really early.
All 3 are. So who
Strasburg, Cole, and Rendon.
Who signed Strasburg? He signed with the regular team.
Yeah.
He signed with he went back to Washington.
Yeah.
So what did he get? Do you remember?
Well, he signed first, and then Cole blew him out of the water. I don't remember his exact numbers, but
Another $80 million.
a little bit more than that. But
well, you think You think they got any jobs for us? Like for Christmas?
Maybe. Yes, I'm sure there's some for us.
Oh, my goodness. All righty. It's 8:14. Jake's picks of the week and his anything else on your mind sports-wise that you want to talk about before we move on to the weather and then to our next guest?
Exciting sports weekend, some good college basketball. I know that's not your...
No, but the other people listening, it may be theirs. Talk about that. What are the big games?
Syracuse, Georgetown tomorrow.
Oh, that's because you're from Syracuse. Give me a
That's
break.
a great rivalry, historic rivalry. Patrick Ewing versus Pearl Washington.
I get it. No, I get that.
And then Seton Hall will be playing Rutgers right after that game. Battle of the Jersey Titans.
I'm still scratching my head over the side of paying a football coach from a it's not a major school $35 million. My head is breaking over that. Is Rutgers like a wannabe? Is that good of a coach, or is that just a school that wants to be a wannabe and is never going to be?
Well, they're in that conference now. They're going to need something. They need to spend the money if they're a laughingstock now. So.
Okay, well, let's see what he can do. All righty, Jake's Picks of the Week. And Jake's Picks, of course, were brought to you by Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrons, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. And with that, we take another look at the weather. It's 32 degrees, getting up to 47 today. Wet weather alert, though. Cloudy skies with rain developing towards mid to late afternoon. Expect off and on rain through the afternoon, mainly into the evening. Temperatures will get up to a max of about 48 at midnight tonight. And Saturday, heavy downpours during the morning will give way to scattered rain in the afternoon. Warm with highs around 58. Breezy, wind southeast to southwest 10 to 20 miles an hour. Saturday night, cloudy. Some late clearing, though, lows around 42. Sunday's an interesting day, Jake. A mix of sun, but clouds as well. Windy. Winds as high as 40 miles an hour. If you still got lawn furniture out there, you better take it in. Highs around 47 degrees. Sunday night, partly cloudy, colder with lows around 30. Monday, a mixture of sun and clouds with highs around 38. Of course, you know that it would get sunny for Monday. That sounds like a name of a movie. Sunny for Monday. And our weather, of course, is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And this top of the hour is brought to you by the law firm of Pena and Kahn. Dominic's Fine Cigars, of course, and they just sponsored Jake's Picks of the Week. And pluginvirtualreality.com. And in a minute, we're going to talk. Let me get this set up for you. We are going to be talking with an individual. Let me get the doctor's name and do my homework here about Dr. Rashini Raj. Dr. Rashini Raj is a board-certified gastroenterologist. And what she's saying is that we can have or give ourselves good health for the holiday season. And she's an internist with a medical degree from NYU and an undergraduate degree from Harvard. Currently, Dr. Roz is an attending physician at NYU Medical Center, the Tisch Hospital in New York, where she was the first female, imagine that, only the first female gastroenterologist. Who knew? But see, you're too young to know this, Jake. But when I was a kid, there was no such thing as a woman doctor. We'd read about it that the UK had them in places in Europe, rather that the Soviet Union did. Now they're everywhere, and I think they're going to be soon more of them than men. At any rate, it's amazing that we had that weird attitude. At any rate, she was the first female gastroenterologist to join the faculty. Dr. Roz is a Today Show contributor, Good Day New York medical correspondent on Fox 5 as well. So she's going to talk to us about giving the gift of health. Giving the gift of health to your friends, family, and loved ones has never been more important. And here is what you need to know. And you certainly can't box it. So we're going to find out how and what is a holiday gift-giving entity. So please, without further ado, we go to the phones. Dr. Rashini Raj. Doctor, good morning.
We're getting her for you now. Hold on.
Okay.
Sorry, Bob.
That's okay. She's going to be with us in a second. That is her producer. And Dr. Raj, you may think you already know what the at-home DNA service is. I don't know what an at-home DNA service is, and I don't know why you would do it, but we'll find out from the doctor. Doctor, are you with us?
I am. Good morning.
Oh, good morning. Let me give you a little bit more power. Can you hear us now, and can we hear you? Speak up, doctor.
Okay, how's that?
Oh, that's wonderful. Doctor, we already told people about you. But one question I have, do you know what's a shocker? Now, I'm of a certain age where I remember all the doctors were men. And
okay.
No, I do. And so you'd read that, Russia had women doctors. How crazy is that? And now my surgeon I'm an older hockey player who's had 2 knee surgeries. And my surgeon is a woman who put me back on skates 5 weeks after each one. It's a new world. But I'm shocked that someone with your reputation, that you were the first gastroenterologist at NYU.
The first female.
That's what I meant.
Yeah.
That's incredible to me. Anyway, congratulations. Long time coming. Y'all are ruling the planet when it comes to medicine now. Good for you. Now tell me, how am I going to make DNA and things like that my Christmas gift of health?
I know. Well, you want to give your loved ones something that's actually going to keep them healthy the whole year round. So I think healthy holiday gifts is a great thing to do. And number 1 on my list is the 23andMe Health and Ancestry Kit. And exactly as you said, this is giving the gift of DNA information, genetic material, so people can understand what's going on in their genes and what kind of conditions are they predisposed to get. So things like type 2 diabetes, they can learn if they're at higher risk for that. They can also learn about some wellness traits, things like, am I prone to be a very deep sleeper? Am I prone to consume a lot more caffeine than the average person? So there's some kind of fun tips, but also some very useful health information. Some also traits you might find out if you're more prone to get mosquito bites or if you're more prone to have a fear of heights. So it's definitely a
Doctor,
good
can we go there?
conversation.
You can tell from DNA testing if mosquitoes like me?
Yes, isn't that so interesting? You can tell if you're more prone to it. There's actually things that are determined by your genes that affect things like whether mosquitoes are going to bite you or even potentially what flavor of ice cream do you prefer.
Get out of
really
here. Come on, Doc.
Yeah, I know. It's so interesting. We're learning more and more about what that genetic material means.
But even the fear of heights, now I know that there are certain anxiety and depression can be genetically predispositions.
That's right.
But even the fear of heights?
That's
specific?
What they've done at 23andMe, they've really mined all this genetic information. They have so much, so many people had given their saliva to be analyzed. So they are really finding very interesting connections, things that we never thought about.
Okay, doctor, I have to go there. Now, could they test me? For example, could I verify the fact that women love me? Could I? No, I'm just saying.
We should. If they added that, I think it would be even more popular than it already is.
I'm ready to be tested
I'm
now.
not sure yet. Not sure yet.
It also may explain I'm convinced I have a women repellent in my DNA.
Oh, okay. All right. You never know.
But this is but now there's
it's worth checking out.
There's a scary downside. There's a scary downside to this. Now, these kinds of tests, doctor, can they not also tell us, for example, if we have a predisposition to breast cancer and maybe we don't want to know and maybe we do want to know? Does it go that deep?
Yeah. Well, that's a great question. And yes, there are some tests like that that are available through 23andMe, but there are also ways that you can opt in for that or opt out. You can choose whether you want to get that information for some of those more serious conditions. And I always say for any of this type of information, discuss it with your doctor. This isn't something that you should be making any major decisions on your own, but you get that information. Maybe it'll motivate you to exercise more or lose weight if you're more prone to type 2 diabetes. But certainly any kind of medical information that you may learn from this, you want to talk to your doctor about.
This is fascinating stuff. 823, we're talking with Dr. and I hope I pronounced it right, Rashini Raj, correct?
Yeah,
okay.
That's perfect, yeah.
And she's talking about 23andMe. You may think you already know what the at-home DNA service 23andMe offers, but over the past year, it has evolved with a wealth of new reports. Now, doctor, I'm going to give you a couple of, not riddles, but we all have them. I'm one of the few people who doesn't dislike the smell of skunks. I'm told that is a genetic thing.
Oh, that's so interesting. Yeah, they're very, like you said, there are certain smells that people may find offensive, certain tastes that people may prefer, salt versus sweet. That's something
Wow. So what? Now, I know. To ask questions. This is so interesting. I kind of cut you off. Now,
That's fine.
I like chocolate ice cream, but if I get chocolate, only with chocolate syrup, and vanilla ice cream. If I get vanilla, I just like it plain. But this is fascinating stuff. I'm thinking of all the things. Like, I'm one of the few people I know loves spinach. I'll eat it forever, and people think I'm nuts. But this is all genetically predisposition stuff.
I think it is, and that's maybe also why sometimes we follow our parents' tastes in a certain way. You know, if our parents love spinach, we might love spinach. A lot of things are going on in the DNA, and honestly, there's a lot we don't know, but we're learning more and more every day, and the more information, more people participate in tests like this, the more we can kind of make connections and figure out new things. Maybe even that one about attracting or repelling women. We might find that one day, too.
Well, I may find out that I need to have my genes altered so that I don't have to wear them as much. But at any rate.
Well, that's a whole other situation. Yeah.
Now, what other kinds of things would we find interesting? And then tell us how we can do it, how we can get that test.
Well, another thing is, it's winter time. It's very dark. When I woke up this morning, it was pitch black. And the winter blues are a very real phenomenon. Another gift that I love for this time of year is this Lumine lamp. It's from Circadian Optics. This is a lamp that mimics daylight. So you turn it on, preferably when you're waking up, eating your breakfast, just for about 15 minutes. You can even do it for an hour if you have the time. And because it's mimicking natural daylight, it's really affecting your circadian rhythm. It's working on receptors in your eyes, which then send messages to your brain to wake up and get more energy, and it can really make a difference. So this is one gift that I love for this time of year, for sure.
Now, doctor, that makes a lot of sense, and we're going to circle back to that. I need you for another couple of minutes. Now, you also mentioned that it can tell me, like, I am a heavy sleeper. Even as a kid, I was a heavy sleeper. My house was on fire at the age of 7. Or next door was, not my house. Firemen carried me out and brought me to another building. I never knew I left. And
well, sleep is so important, so I'm kind of jealous that you're such a deep sleeper. And yes, that is one of the traits that 23andMe tests for, whether you're kind of more prone to be a deep sleeper, you're more prone to be a light sleeper. A lot of interesting stuff there.
Geez, this is amazing. Now, how much does it cost to get these tests and to buy this as a gift?
Yeah.
You know?
So to get the 23andMe Health and Ancestry Kit, through December 26th, it's $129. They're running a little special there. After that, it's about $199.
$199. And now they do. How long does the test take? And it's just saliva, right?
It's just saliva. It's really easy. I did it myself a couple months ago. You just spit into a little tube, send it off, and within 2 or 3 weeks, you're going to get back all the reports. It's really interesting. And actually, as they discover new reports, they'll send those to you as well. So it's not even just a one-time thing. You'll keep getting
they give you up.
over
Okay.
the months or years.
Dr. Raj,
you get a fun little email.
Dr. Raj, you went to some of the best medical schools in the world, but you've made a mistake. Never give a talk show host ammunition. What kinds of things did your test show?
You're right. I did make a mistake, didn't I? You know what? It didn't. I didn't have any really alarming health things, which was great. But there were some fun traits. Things like I do tend to get bitten by mosquitoes a lot, which is a little pet peeve of mine.
Why
and
is that? Me
true.
too. Why is that?
Yeah.
Now I tend to
hate
be.
that.
I'm a swarthy Italian. Does it have anything to do with skin or ethnicity?
That's a good question. No, I don't. It probably does because it's related to your genes. But it's also interesting that they say certain times of a woman's life, like pregnant women are more prone to be bitten by mosquitoes. There are a lot of things going on that
Pheromones.
We're kind of excreting hormones or pheromones. Exactly. So that was an interesting one. The sleep one as well. It said I'm prone to be a light sleeper, which I definitely am. I can attest to that also. So some really fun, interesting things came up.
Oh, okay. And now I'm just wondering, doctor, and I have to handle this gently because I don't want people to think it's in any way misogynistic. But can it tell us if someone's going to have a really bad case of mean PMS?
Interesting. I have to look back.
You should look that up.
May talk about that. Yeah.
Because then what we can do is we can put men in isolation during those periods.
Right,
This is great.
Exactly.
Hey, doctor, now you're a gastroenterologist by trade. Are there any stomach, particular things to the stomach, whether or not you're prone to irritable bowel or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of different things related to digestive health, celiac disease, which is a very common condition these days, which involves gluten, is one of the predispositions that it can test for, as well as some other more serious GI conditions. So, yeah, a whole host of things. And you're right, gut health is extremely important. We're learning more and more how important our gut is to our overall health. Actually, one of the other gifts on my list was a probiotic coffee. So probiotics are those good, healthy bacteria. And most people think they need to eat yogurt to get it, but now there are a lot of food products and beverage products that contain probiotics, and one of them is probiotic coffee. So a lot of coffee lovers on your gift list this year, I'm sure. That's
Okay,
a great
back
way to
up,
give them an
Doc.
extra boost.
Dr. Raj, Dr.
Yeah.
Roshini Raj. You mean my coffee's going to have like bugs in it? You want me to?
That's right.
Oh man, because I won't
Those
eat yogurt.
bugs are good for you.
I have a mental thing about eating yogurt. It's a cup. I look at it and I said, that's an entire cup of bacteria. There are living beings in there, and I just feel. Everybody tells
You know
me
what?
I'm crazy.
We really have learned how important those living beings are. We in our bodies have more bacterial cells than human cells, so they're doing a lot in there, and we need more. So if you don't like the yogurt, go for the coffee.
Now, I have tried occasionally to take candy from a spouse. I would rather chase a hockey puck. I would rather grab a hockey puck away from a guerrilla defenseman. What about the love of chocolate that some people have? Is that genetic?
That is probably genetic, sweet versus salty tastes and preferences. You know, it's interesting. They say sometimes chocolate kind of triggers the same centers in your brain that like a heroin addiction could do. So there's some very, very deep coffee addicts out there. I mean, sorry, chocolate addicts, coffee as well. But yes, I love chocolate as well. But I think there is probably a genetic component to that. Yes.
There was once a woman who pried a chocolate out of my mouth many, many years ago because it was the last one in the box. What was I doing? My sister. I was the last one in the box. I said, and she went in with her finger, and God, no.
Oh, my God. Only a sister would do that.
No, okay. Dr. Ashini Raz, you've been terrific and a great spokesperson for this. Now, tell us, let's get to where can we get more information and how can we buy that product? Where can we buy the sun lamp? And where can I get the coffee with active life? In fact, if it was Star Trek and we were looking down, Captain, there are life forms in the coffee.
Exactly. Well, yeah, you can get a lot of these products online, of course. So 23andMe, you can go to 23andme.com. Lumine they're available on Amazon, I believe, as well as their own website. And then probiotic coffees, there are many out there. This one is called VitaCup, so you can go to their website as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then my Instagram, which is drroshiniraj, has more information also.
Doctor, thank you very, very much. It's been informative, but it's also been fun. Thank you so much,
Yes.
and you have a wonderful day.
Thank you. You too. Happy holidays.
The same to you. Okay, folks, it is 8:33. Our next guest, she was great. And I'm just wondering all the different things and I'm thinking of the things in my family. Like my daughter is one of those people, when she looks at chocolate, her eyes get bigger than silver dollars. And, I have my own weaknesses. Like I could eat pasta and, I shouldn't be picking on everybody else. Besides, I have to see these people over the weekend, and I don't want to get beat up. Okay, let's look forward. Coming up in just a few minutes, and I know we have to share the weather with you again, Hezi Aris. He is the editor and publisher of the Yonkers Tribune. He'll be joining us in a few minutes as well, and we'll be anxious to talk with him. He's got breaking stories. He always does. He'll be with us to 9 o'clock, and then we will be talking I'm proud to say, with a special guest, sort of a surprise guest, and we'll be talking about the Beachmont Tavern here in New Rochelle and its history. Its history, for example, as and there's no other way to put it, it's in a song. And I see he's coming in right now. Let's see who. Oh, I already know who's with us. It has his name on it. But first, Hezi Aris will be with us in a moment. But we do have to share the weather with the world, and we shall do that now. It is 32 degrees, getting up to Let me double check. 47 today. We'll have rain starting this afternoon and on into the evening. Then some light showers off and on tonight. It'll be 48 at midnight, cloudy with periods of moderate rain. Tomorrow, heavy downpours, though. The morning will give way to scattered rain in the afternoon. It'll be warm with highs around 58. Sunday, though, a mixture of sun and clouds, but windy. The wind out of the west up to 40 miles an hour. And partly cloudy and colder with lows around 30 at night, a mix of sun and clouds with highs around 38 degrees. And this weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. And it's time, one of our favorite guests, he's usually with us at 9 o'clock. He will be back again at 9 o'clock next week, or as well, whenever a story breaks. One of the better investigative journalists here in Westchester County. Please, sorry about that. You saw the mic attack me. I'm suing the mic. The Bob 2 movement. Let's go to my next guest. Hezi Harris, good morning. So did you see the mic attack me? Oh my God!
I wasn't watching it because I have to focus. I got somebody on the other end by the name of Bob Marrone. I've got to be astute and acerbic.
Astute, that's right. Acerbic, that's one of your watchwords. It is always a pleasure, Hezi Harris. So much going on in your town in so little time. What's at the top of your queue today, sir?
Well, at the top of the thing is wrote an article specifically for our subscribers about 2 days ago, and today we released it so that everybody could read it, and it's called The Demise of Hyperlocal Journalism, which undermines our community. And this all came about because we had learned last week that 200 people were let go by the Journal News now that it's become part of a larger conglomerate. And the Gannett name is at the top of the moniker, but it is really a marriage in which they own 49% of this business alliance, and another company, I think it was called Gatehouse Media, they own 51. So it's a compelling change in our capacity for discourse and also for the integrity of writing and reporting.
Well, yes, absolutely. But doesn't it also make the case, and this is self-serving, but for all of us, for you, for me, for the Bob Coxes and Black Westchesters and Delpham Huslers, et cetera, but doesn't this really underscore why what you do is needed so much? Because these big conglomerates don't even know the people anymore. They don't know. They don't have the necessary reporters to go to City Hall every day or haunt them the way you do or Bob does. What of that?
Well, that was the thing. Like, there was recently, you must have heard the story about Larry Picari. He was at one time corporation counsel in Yonkers. He was also corporation counsel appointed in Mount Vernon. He evidently absconded with $365,000 to benefit the mayor of, at that time, the city of Mount Vernon, Richard Thomas. And on the first day of the court case, the Journal News was there. We also reported it, but I'm one person. I can't cover everything.
Right.
And
Same here.
When the case kept on going and going and going, and it lasted into this week, never a follow-up whatsoever. So what that tells me is not that there's a lack of integrity in the reporting, but rather a lack of integrity in the editors who decide what story will get credence or focus, or what stories will not. And more importantly, they will also decide the political the direction of any particular report. So they could be left or they could be right or maybe somewhere in the middle. But the point is rarely in the middle, usually one way or the other, and that's all on the basis of the return of money. It's all about money. Who are they serving? They're not serving the local reader. And that is the problem.
Well, even as you know, our friends in News 12, they've got a couple of people they stayed here in Westchester, but they're out of Long Island now. Their home base, their home studios are in Long Island, and people have
But
to
there's
learn.
a difference in reporting.
Yes.
News 12 is a televised news outlet,
Mm-hmm.
and I can't undermine their integrity or their
Oh no,
capacity.
the integrity is not a question, but you don't have the coverage.
Yeah. Well, we don't have the coverage. FiOS is gone, so there's no coverage there, so no competition. But you also have to understand too that not only is it that the media is not doing a good job. There's something a little bit more permanent and connective about good writing and good reporting. So that's the difference between a 30-second or a minute and a half insight into a particular event.
Well, of course, and also your one's hiring practices. You know, if you're getting somebody on the cheap who just came out of journalism school or out of a broadcast school, and they haven't really learned to write well yet, or how to not bury a lead, you're not getting top-notch reporting.
Well, I don't know what they're paying, but certainly in the Journal News, when it was just part of the Gannett, it was as one of their news outlets, they fired their senior writers.
One of their finest writers, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, you've got
so Reisman.
Reisman is gone. Ken. It's just it's gotten nuts. So, what's the answer? I mean, the answer is obviously where the sponsorship money goes, and people, the independent outlets like myself, yourself, Bob Cox, we have to scratch to make a living. We can't afford to hire many people and get them in the city halls and the.
No.
I don't know what the answer.
I'm a one-man. I've been a one-man show for 20 years, and the reason for that is not because I like to work alone, because I don't. I like to engage in discourse with other people that can challenge my ideas and concepts, and also may have a different take on a particular issue and circumstance. And I'm not challenged by that. I'm not undermined. I haven't lost, my cojones in any way, shape, or form when someone says, well, that's not the way to look at it. I'm looking at it a different way. So, well, good for you.
You know what's interesting?
Okay.
You know what's interesting? Myself and a caller, Anthony, and I were talking about that this morning. Like yourself,
I'm a little bit more. I think it was a 4-letter, or was it a 5-letter word?
Oh, what I said, and I should not.
Somewhere else.
No, what I said is I used. I was apologizing. I should have for something that I said yesterday, a phrase I used that has to do with a certain kind of bag, and I should not have. I apologize appropriately. Okay. What we were talking about was what you are, that we have a willingness here, and as you know, it's not always easy. You got to keep your wits about you. We will accept any opinion and talk bluntly about it so that the discourse continues. Right. That's not always welcome in a lot of places, and that you do that is important.
Well, that's the difference between discourse and lack thereof. That's the difference between having a discourse and a discussion. You will most likely not change somebody else's attitude and demeanor because they're already they're stuck with it. It's like it's almost like if you're rooting for the New York Mets, you're not likely to move over to the Yankees.
Do you know what though?
So you're part of that tribe.
I've sensed that the open dialogue though. Now I'm at this almost 15 years, and I've changed my positions as a result of callers. Now they don't change there's no epiphany one day, but certainly I came to understand. Let's say during the debate over healthcare. There should have been tort reform too, but you can't just say Obamacare, go to the wall for it or nothing. Similarly, I know I've gotten some ultra-conservative callers to look a little harder at some of the other points of view. So you do inch along, but I think to your point, what's more important is to understand how the other person sees the world.
Well, I think that's really where it's at. When people do somehow move from where they were initially, their comfort zone, just slightly, that's not because they're moving in the direction to a particular place because of understanding in many cases. It's also the direction society is going. So look at this whole thing about women being demonized and denigrated for all these years, and all of a sudden it's now no longer apropos, and it should never have been. And so that it's not that people are thinking differently. Their behavior is still as atrocious as it probably was before, but it's not appropriate. So people will stay quiet about it, and yet they still do whatever they used to do before. We still, but the real issue is what you brought up before: the complexity of issues. Whether it talks about tort reform or decides to leave it out of the equation, is a deficiency in the reporting. And that usually is dictated by editors of newspapers that define how you're supposed to present your story.
Yeah.
Because they'll read it once and admonish you. They'll read it twice and admonish with a second article and a third. And by the fifth time, you're warned, sorry, this is not going to cut it. If you're going to give us a report, I don't want to see this and I don't want to see that. And I won't see this and I won't see that.
Yeah, that's
and
very
if you
true.
Continue, you're out the door.
8:45. Well,
So
you know who comes on and talks about that very, very eloquently is the professor of mass common ethics when he was writing it for a local paper up county. He went
I
through
don't know him,
exactly what you just Jack Breslin, mass communications and ethics professor.
Oh
at
yeah,
Iona.
absolutely.
He went through exactly what you just said, and was sometimes even criticized for trying to hold local public officials accountable. Which fortunately you and the Bob Coxes can do because you're independent of that. Of which I wanted to ask you about something. This story surprised me. I know he was a capable guy, but yesterday it was announced that Mike Kaplowitz, who is a very able county legislator with a good business on the side, said he wanted to get out of politics, move on. That's it. He's done. And 6 months later, he takes a job as a deputy commissioner with the county. And it only turned my head around because I was trying, number one, to see where this came in and what the history of it likely was. And number two, the passing of a judgeship here in New Rochelle to a guy that announced pretty early on that he wasn't going to run again and that he was going to support the mayor, and then now gets a judgeship. It's always been thus, hasn't it, this kind of patronage?
Yes, it has. In fact, over this weekend on Sunday, I'll be writing a story that will just throw your head back as in such a spin, and it's about Yonkers and all their new alliances and allegiances and connections, which are absolutely mind-boggling. Which actually goes to the point where, while the nation turns blue, which is evident, right?
Yes.
Yonkers is going red, and I don't know if that's pasta sauce or whatever it is, but whatever it is, it's no good for the city, and it's being maligned. And that was one of the problems in reporting in the past too. The reporting went in one direction or the other depending on where you were. And then media was absorbed or eclipsed by television and television coverage by the cities themselves. And there was a time also when newspapers would come and they would listen to whomever the spokesperson was for a particular city, literally lying on the ground, at their mentor's feet. And they would give them the song and dance, and that's what they used to report.
Well, yeah,
that was not my place. I never felt that I belonged on the floor at somebody's knee, except mom and dad. They did a good job, but the bottom line is,
you say they did.
Well, there's a limit. There's a limit. Well, yeah, okay. Well, let's hope that they did.
No,
and
I
may they
think
rest
they
in
did,
peace.
but I
the
like to have
bottom
fun
line,
at your
I
expense,
know.
Hezzy Aris. Hezzy Aris is the managing editor
course.
and publisher of the Yonkers Tribune. You remember him. He had a nice stewardship as well at the Westchester Guardian. I wanted to go to a story a little off. It's not off the beaten path. It's made
Okay.
regional news. And you have a
Okay.
background that you understand, of course, having lived in Israel, being a Jewish American, and you understand anti-Semitism. What happened in Jersey City, this group that claims to be the correct Israelites, is a pathetic group. I mean, we're not talking about the Ashkenazi Jews or the Ethiopian Jews. We're talking about a crazy sect that invented their own religion. Yes.
Well, evidently they've been in New York City for as long as I know, because I used to live in Manhattan, and they used to hang around on the street corner of 42nd, 43rd, 44th, 45th Street and Broadway, looking for money. I never thought of them as a terrorist group, as seemingly is the way the government defines them. But then again, I never got close or was interested in their dogma. I don't remember why I was turned off, because they used to hold signs, and I just couldn't. It didn't connect with me, so I never really paid attention. But one thing that was interesting in Jersey City, they ended up coming in some sort of a van, and they come out of the van with guns blazing, and they went directly to a kosher deli right next to a yeshiva, school of learning for Orthodox Jews, and they decided to maim people and kill people.
See, but I don't understand.
But the problem is, this is a rise of anti-Semitism.
Yes.
There's a rise of bigotry all over, and instead of learning to respect, we're learning to kill.
Awful.
And we've accepted this killing because it really is a corollary to the way, if our children can get killed and we don't change the law, or we don't have an uproar, or we diminish the intensity of it, then we keep on going, and we become more and more emboldened. And now anti-Semitism, Islamic people of the Islamic faith, and others. The problem is that people take it to heart rather than to look at the integrity of the reporting. So if you happen to be a Jew and you happen to be a really crass individual and blah 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 blah, it should be appropriate to be able to demonize just to out these people. However, we're afraid to do that. So then the backlash comes out. People have animosity, and they take it out by killing them.
You know what's a sweet story?
Of that Saudi guy in Pensacola?
Nobody
Saudi
knows.
Arabia.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. So
in
other words, the word vetting means absolutely nothing when it comes to the security of the United States.
A sweet story.
I'm sorry, it just doesn't cut it.
I know. I want to share a sweet story with you, at least in my view.
All right,
it was from this morning's news. No, it's apropos of that incident. We have some Orthodox communities upstate, particularly in Rockland County. We're not far upstate here in the valley. Well, one community, this is a beautiful story. Now, probably better than I do that in most of the Orthodox communities, or in a lot of them, they don't have cell phones, they don't have computers. But they were they were so taken with the heroics of this detective, Joseph Seals, who was killed, that without cell phones or computers, they raised $50,000 for his family in 24 hours.
Right.
And see, those are the kinds of things we don't put in the news enough and make people understand that you got to look at. You have to be accepting of differences, and it's heartbreaking.
But it's not differences that you're looking at. What you find more so in the very Orthodox Jewish community, but I don't want to take it away from others that are not so religious. But there is a sense, even if one is not a practicing Jew, there is a sense of charity.
Yes.
And it is one of the most coveted aspects of our DNA, and it's expected. And there's always something that one can give. It doesn't necessarily mean money. It may just mean holding someone's hand or listening to them, just being aware of their existence, recognizing them, and that is our standard. We're not going to use our kids to stand up against bombs. We're not going to take guns and shoot at somebody else if we disagree with them. It's not our nature because we've been raised not to have that. It's that simple.
Well, and that's one of the great paradoxes. Community's always a wonderful thing. The only concern I ever have with communities and all communities is the whole aspect of you can also be shunned from a community. You can also be rejected if you don't toe community lines. There always has to be a balance. Hezi, we got 5 more minutes left, and I wanted to go back to your home city. And I was thinking about this. Syracuse, for example, and Yonkers are the same size. But because Yonkers is buried in, when I say buried, it's surrounded by New York City, and it's within a county that is itself huge. It should be, in many ways, more independent. It doesn't have its own radio station. It doesn't have, other than the work you do.
It doesn't want to.
Its own newspaper.
It doesn't want to have a radio station.
It doesn't
want to have its own newspaper.
It could have a baseball team. It doesn't have
why?
any of it.
Because again, they don't. Because they're not interested. Because they control the city. This administration controls the city. They're not interested in any news reporting, no radio, no TV, absolutely nothing. Nothing.
But a city that size shouldn't be flying under the radar. I mean, they should have a baseball team. They should have a couple of radio stations.
No, but you don't seem to understand.
No, I do. I'm saying this for the benefit of the audience.
What it is. Well, they know. You think it's that much different in so many other communities. It's not. Of course, with 200,000 some odd thousand people, we should have a radio station. We should have. But hey, there was a time years ago I was thinking of buying a radio station.
I remember
in Yonkers. I thought it was important. They didn't want it. Government said absolutely, positively not. You're going nowhere with this. That's how I ended up with Blog Talk Radio.
No, and that's we're doing this for all of Westchester as we expand, and your voice is being heard across the county. But I almost say to myself, what is it? The 5th or 6th largest city? It just blends in as another borough in the city of Westchester.
The 4th largest city.
Yeah, and it shouldn't be.
The 4th largest city in the state.
Now I realize you got New York City there, but there should be the Yonkers baseballers.
You keep saying it shouldn't be, except that the powers that be want it the way it is because that gives them control. And they're the ones that give out the news. Do you know that in the last 2.5 months, I have not gotten anything from the police department? They haven't told me about the fact that they just fired a woman police officer. They haven't told me, for example, that another police officer was found on drugs and released. So he's no longer employed. 2 of them dismissed in the last week. How come we don't know about it? That's the point. It's all control in every conceivable manner. And when I finish writing my story on Sunday, you will also see all the other machinations that are taking place. It is literally to control a city, and they do a good job. They don't promote it correctly, or rather they promote it the way they want it, but they don't promote it honestly. And you know what? I'm not embarrassed if, God forbid, there's a killing in Yonkers because I know that our police department is doing the best that they can. And you know what? They're not more successful in New York City. But the problem here in Yonkers is they cover everything up, including the good stuff.
Well, we were talking about that a little bit.
They don't know how to celebrate contention.
I thought of your city.
Deal with contention.
I thought of your work in your city when I did the regional news this morning. I do it in Cascade. Okay. I do the local, the regional, and the national. Okay. And one of the stories that stuck in my head is the way New York City tries to frost over how wonderful northern Manhattan's been. When it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I thought of you, how in the last year I must have done about 7 stories about crime in Morningside Park. And yet they put out this, everything is wonderful there. And so young kids are walking in the park in the dead of night thinking that it's safe when it's not. And that's exactly what men like you and women who do this are fighting. That don't sugarcoat this stuff. It costs lives. Yes, Harlem's come around a great deal. Northern Manhattan's come around a great deal, but it still is not Candyland.
But there's a reason for that. It's all cold money.
Yeah.
That's how you spell it. And you know what though? If an honest perspective of any community is what sells, and if people tell the truth, then at least it's real. And if it's not, if it's sugar-coated, it becomes unreal and suspect.
Yeah,
and that's the way this city looks.
And sometimes, it happens in every city. Here in New Rochelle, the effort to sugarcoat the school district, which is actually pretty good, backfired on them and wound up in the news again and again and again. And the more
don't you see? The issue here is that you can think that you can bamboozle the public. But despite all the BS that comes out of government, whoever they may be, the public is still aware. And the fact that you're maligning your own people by thinking that they're stupid and they don't know, then you're in denial, because they do know. They know the people. It's a small community, whether it be New Rochelle or whether it be Yonkers. Everybody knows everybody in Yonkers. There are no 6 degrees of separation. Are you kidding? Are you kidding? Everybody dated everybody else's boyfriend or girlfriend, and that's how it works.
Wow.
And everybody went to school, the same schools.
It's amazing. It is, and it's good that you didn't go to school there, because then they'd be leaning on you. Hezi Aris. And by the way, I love your hesitorials. Are you working on a new hesitorial as well?
Well, this is the one that was from last week, but the next one will be a revelation of what's going on in
Okay, so
Yonkers.
It is the hesitorial, not just the story, but the hesitorial.
Yeah,
you won't want to miss that, folks.
A heditorial is simply an editorial, and
I know, but I love
that
it.
was a coveted, and that's it, because there is more to just real news, and sometimes it requires an explanation, and that might tend to lead in one direction or the other. So I want to be honest about it. It's like an op-ed piece.
Well, of course it is, but I enjoy them very much. Well, listen, thank you very, very much. Hezi Aris is the managing editor and publisher of the Yonkers Tribune. Go on the website, all the latest and top stories regarding Yonkers and, of course, the county and things peripheral as well when they're big stories, like the way Mount Vernon had been the last couple of years. Hezi, thank you very much. You have a wonderful weekend, and I'm sure we'll talk to you early next week after we read your paper. Take care.
Okay, all the best. Thank you.
Same to you. Hezi Aris, everybody. Listen to him on Blog Talk Radio at 10 o'clock. Thank you so much. All righty, we're waiting for our next guest, who's going to be making an appearance in a little while. We're going to just take a very quick break. Stay right there. Good morning. You're on Radio Westchester. Good morning. Nope. Good morning. You're on Radio Westchester.
Hey, it's Mitchell. Could you hear me?
Hey, Mitchell. How are you? We were just doing some resets here. We're glad you joined us. We were just going to open up the telephones, and you called at the right time. 914-222-3141. 914-222-3141. What's on your mind? Mitchell. Hold on. I turned you off. No. What's on your mind? I accidentally turned you off. I'm going blind.
Well, first of all, is it true that skunks can't smell other skunks?
Don't know. Well, you heard me this morning that I'm one of those people. I'm not a skunk. I got that, Mitchell. I'm not a skunk, okay? It's just a fact. My family laughs at me. The first time I smelled a skunk, I asked my sister on a bus going to Buffalo. I said, that smells like chicken. And she said, oh, my God. Yeah.
Bob, the fact that your family laughs at you just means that they're in very good company.
Yeah, and there's something else that I hate that everybody else likes. There's a I don't know if you call it a spice or something that they use in Chinese food, and I forget the name of it. To me it tastes like I just drank liquor. I mean not liquor, lacquer or paint or something. Anyway, so yes, what's on your mind, wise guy?
Well, I was listening to Hesiaris. Just a couple of things, if I could say. He's bemoaning the fact of one-party rule.
Yes.
And yet he boasts how he only could work alone as a newsman.
Well, he can only work alone because he can't afford an employee.
Well, no, he actually said he wants to work alone. And I would tell you, my friend, that's more dangerous than one-party rule. The fact that we have newspapers or media outlets or blogs or whatever that have only one person is good in one respect, but not good in another, because they're not feeding off each other and getting an opposing point of view. So I would suggest to use, to the best of your ability, get other points of view.
Well, that he does tolerate. He does tolerate other points of view. You can argue with him all day. It's like dealing with you or Anthony. He tolerates that. He deals with it.
Yeah, but you got to do it before you put it on your blog. But that said, I agree with, you and I are of an age, and we grew up in New York City, so you and I probably grew up reading 3-4 papers a day, because remember there was one paper that had the better sports section.
I love
There was
that.
the afternoon sports section. There was the evening sports.
I still do that. To be honest with you, I still do that. I read them all. I'm like a junkie.
Yeah, but the problem with that all, it used to be a choice of 30, you're down to 2.
I used to read the Journal American, the Times, the New York Post. Remember the Daily Mirror? Remember at night remember they came out at night to the evening edition, like the line in Goodfellas. I'm going to get the papers. Get the papers.
Bob, I still get the Daily News delivered to me.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yeah.
It's a terrible paper, but I can't give up the habit.
No.
So it actually while the fact that we don't have media outlets, the fact that the journal news really doesn't exist is is terrible for the public, I believe. But what I think is good for the public is that the outgrowth of blogs, people like Bob Cox and you and others, and ultimately it's in the infancy of what it's going to become.
Yeah, I think so too.
But my guess is that at some point they're going to figure out how to really mass produce it. And you're going to have 3 or 4 or 5 different blogs in every community.
Yeah,
well, you'll be able to get your news, able to get your information, and we'll probably, let's face reality. It's 20 years since papers could have someone in a local community. They can't afford it anymore. But you can have a Bob Cox and a Bob Marrone in the same community.
And apropos of that, the old line, what's past is prologue. I started thinking, I had a conversation yesterday with my colleague who's in here in the studio, and it led to a lot more thought. about the future of what we're doing here. And one of the things that I was thinking about is creating an association here in Westchester of local media. I mean, hyper-local media. The Bob Coxes, the Hezzy Harrises, the Black Westchester Magazine, and so forth.
Well, there you go, and I think ultimately that's probably where something like this goes, where you have the merger of these various blogs, and much like how the patchwork, where they could draw from different areas, these different blogs will draw. You have Hezzy doing Yonkers, you have someone do Black Westchester doing Mount Vernon, you have you or Bob doing the South Shore, so could be a good idea. Just a thought.
And Bailey and White Plains as well. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
But one of the things I wanted to call you, I get such a laugh. Our dear Melania, she went after that poor professor for making what was a pretty witty joke about you could name someone Baron, you just can't appoint the Baron.
Well,
I thought that was a pretty witty joke, but it's also, it was definitely.
Well, she should have been more. Well, she should have been more politically savvy in this day and age.
But right. But Melania, you know what? You have a point. Now, I would ask Melania, why is it that's not okay, but it's okay for your fat husband to go after a 16-year-old girl?
Well, you know what? I'm sure if you asked Melania, she'd agree. She'd probably agree with you. She
probably would. But,
she can't. How can she account for the habits of this guy?
But you know what? Trump's the clown met his match in this 16-year-old girl because she really came back with a great tweet that like that.
Apropos of that. Apropos of that.
Bob, coming in Brooklyn, that was a smackdown by that 16-year-old.
Yeah, well, I got, I apologized at 6 o'clock this morning because I let my Brooklyn come out, and my justification in my head at the time is that if the president who comes from Queens is calling people names, I'll call him a name, and it was inappropriate, and I shouldn't have done it. So I get that, but what I wanted to ask you about yesterday, we ran out of time. And I saw that you were trying to get in and Tom was trying to get in. I was really disappointed that I went off the air too soon. And what I wanted to say to you was, or ask you about, because we didn't get the other side of the fence. I mean, Vince, a little bit. Where do you think the impeachment is going? One of my concerns is that they kind of lightened it up. They avoided some stuff, and we're going to a gunfight with a knife. Feel about it, because we both know, I think, that he's not going to get convicted, but will there be enough there to influence voters? What do you say?
We have a great economy, and he's polling at 40%. Nothing more needs to be said.
So you think he's going to lose no matter what?
I don't know if he's going to lose. The guy should be polling at 75% with the economy we have, and he's polling at 40%. So it's having an impact. Whether he loses the election or not, I don't know. But clearly, he should be at such a high number that it shouldn't even be a contest.
Let me ask you this too. There are callers we get. You can tell it gets to them. I admitted yesterday in my conversation with Andy Spano that this whole last couple of years has been. Time
out. Could I? This is why I was calling you.
Go ahead.
Now that you brought up Andrew.
Yes.
You keep giving Andrew attribution about how early he predicted Trump was going to win.
Yes.
Yet on your old radio station, I predicted 3 months before Andrew.
Okay,
so
I will yield.
Stop giving him the.
Okay, but he was the first guest as opposed to caller. Okay, I will rephrase my commentary. But anyway, no. But seriously, one of the things that I appreciate you about you, even envy, is you don't allow this stuff to get into your gut. How come?
No, I think it's fun because I take after. I was a big fan of Imus in the morning.
That was my hero. He was the guy that I married after anybody.
Imus It's funny as all heck, but he was right to tell it the hun. But he had one axiom about who he always wanted to be elected, and that was who was the person who was going to give him the most material to work
you
with.
see, but that's because he started out with music and went to politics later. See, I'm the reverse.
right.
As much as I'm a disciple of Imus, I actually care about this stuff, and sometimes I let that caring get in the way of what would be better radio, and I've got to remember that.
But I go after, I take after, I believe in that axiom that vote for the person who's going to provide you with the most entertainment.
Well,
And
certainly
Trump the
it's been Trump.
Trump the Clown, let me just tell you, Trump the Clown has got me to start watching Saturday Night Live after 40 years.
Yeah, but you know what? And
guy-
maybe an example I always use, okay? And I'm never going to get over this. It's just I'm never going to get over. Well, I'll get over it. Like I don't lose sleep. I do lose sleep over the whole issue with Trump sometimes. But I won't get over running into certain members of the community where I grew up, or when I go to the hockey rink. And when I was coaching, now my grandson's grown up and he's ready to go play college hockey, and have mothers come up to me and say, "Isn't it true that Michelle Obama's a man?" I can't wrap my head around that. I refuse to wrap my head around that because it says more about the person who's otherwise a decent human being than it does about me. And you would just laugh, and I'm not criticizing you. I admire you for it. It makes me sick.
I wouldn't laugh. I just look at them and say, "Have you seen your wife lately?"
No, but these are women that did it. That makes it worse. These are the.
And I would say, "Have you seen your husband lately?"
No, it's just but I don't. No, but I'm talking about that. That head is out there. That mentality is out there, and so I started to draw a line in the sand.
And the listen. One of the things that Trump has shown us. And this is one of the things I actually applaud him for, is that we are still a much more racist society than we ever wanted to admit.
Absolutely.
And since he has more or less okayed it for people to come out behind the shadows, we now realize the severity of the challenge that we have. So in that respect, I actually like him. I don't like the fact that he's bringing it out, but I guess it's in a way it's good that it's being exposed. But the reality, Bob, is we are still a much more racist country than any of us ever wanted to admit.
I get that, and I understand that. But when we get people to believe because of my profession, which again, maybe I should be proud that I care more than just doing shtick, but shtick and disinformation. I mean, I may be wrong a lot, and callers can have at me, but at least it's sincerely wrong. We have people that make up stories and create these conspiracy theories, and it's heartbreaking. And I'm fine. Yesterday it sounded macabre, but I was telling Andy this, and he says, "Don't worry about it." Blah 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 blah. I mean, it's not like I'm obsessing about it, but it's a troubling time for our country.
But I think it's a large part because of elected officials. And, I think you have it on both sides, but I'm going to knock the Republicans for this time. You got Matt Gaetz and you got John Kennedy, who come out and say, that they don't know. They have seen nothing about the fact that Ukraine has nothing to do with this and it's all Russia. Now, John Kennedy can I tell you, is one of the brightest people in the Senate. Now, he comes off.
Excuse me?
He has a great shtick. Happens to be one of the smartest guys in the Senate. Comes off, his shtick is to come off as a country bumpkin. The guy is a Rhodes Scholar, Bob.
I know. And he's using his Rhodes Scholarship to deceive, to divide, to hurt, to discredit.
Exactly. Now, that's probably the worst thing that we have, is that you have someone with John Kelly's intelligence, John Kelly's knowledge of what really is happening, and he's purposely going out and disseminating misinformation. That's the danger. If we have a call up and
no, when you say John Kelly, you're talking about the former chief of staff?
Kennedy. No, John Kennedy.
Oh, John Kennedy. Oh, okay.
Yeah. who comes out and says, I haven't, blamed Ukraine for interfering with the election, then came out a week later and apologized, then came out a week later and said, well, I have no information, even though he had the Senate had gotten brief showing that the Ukraine had nothing to do with it. That's the danger. That's the thing when an elected official, and again, I know you're going to have people call up, well, Democrats do too. Yeah,
well, we got a guest
wrong.
arrive, so we won't be taking any more calls after this, but go ahead.
They're both wrong. They're both wrong. I don't care who does it. If you give out misinformation, it's wrong. It's one thing if, for a caller to do that, not many people pay attention to us. But
I find our callers to the right and to the left and the middle, what the redeeming value of all of them and myself and you, I believe, is the sincerity. And that's all you can ask for, and then that's how people reach understanding. But the problem with the political class is to deliberately disinform, deliberately to manipulate. That's why while I know the world needs marketing, and I've got to market this radio station. And the thing is, how do you market without crossing over into being disingenuous?
Bob, it's so sweet of you to say that we're sincere, but you don't have a caller who's sincere, including me.
Oh, but yeah, all right. Well, listen, Mitchell, thank you for catching up because we wanted to get to you yesterday, and thank you for calling in. We're going to go to our next guest, someone you may know. You may, yeah, you too. Mitch may have even had a bubbly there or two. We're going to be talking with the owner of the Beachmont Tavern. Now, what I've always loved about the Beachmont Tavern, I've been trying to get this guy on the air for about 5 years, back from my days at WFAS, then WVOX, and now here at Radio Westchester, because he manages and runs one of the most iconic places in Westchester, certainly in New Rochelle. But first, we do have to go to the weather and give some acknowledgement to our sponsors for the top of the hour. And let's talk about the sponsors first. This top of the hour has been supported by Aging Issues Management, Aging Issues Radio, the law firm of Payne & Kahn, Plug-in Virtual Reality, and the United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. And, of course, Jake's Picks of the Week today, and they also support us. They were brought to you by Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrones, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. They're open 7 days. It is 33 degrees now. It's going to get up to 47, but that's going to happen at midnight tonight. Some rain is going to cook up this afternoon, late morning into the evening, off and on throughout the afternoon. Tonight, cloudy with periods of moderate rain, again topping out at 48 degrees at midnight. Tomorrow, heavy downpours, not just the sprinkles, but heavy downpours during the morning will give way to scattered rain in the afternoon, warm and with highs around 58 degrees, breezy. The wind out of the southeast 10 to 20 miles an hour. Now, Sunday's an interesting day. Why, Bob? A mix of sun and clouds, but windy. We're going to get gusts up to 40 miles an hour. But it will be warm. Sunday night, 47, 48, that's warm for this time of year. Sunday night, partly cloudy and colder with around 30 degrees. So it will be colder. Now, Monday is you get your sun, but a little late. Mixture of sun and clouds with highs around 38. Monday night, partly cloudy with lows near 31. And the weather this day is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. They say if you wait long enough, you get what you've been trying to get. And I did in the studio, and many of you know this man he's also the president of the New Rochelle Chamber of Commerce. Full disclosure, I'm a member of the board, former executive director, but I got to know this man well then, both in that job and now. And I have to admit, and I always kid people, he always does when he advertises his restaurant and his pub, he says, we have the best wings. And I'm always telling people he's got the best hamburgers. And I always go in and order the same thing. I get my plain burger with smothered onions and ketchup and fries. And sometimes I will admit, Rob Hayes, to getting 2 burgers, as you know. Please welcome, without further ado, the owner of the Beachmont Tavern, Rob Hayes. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Bob.
It's good to see you. You've been on the radio before, haven't you?
I have not.
Well, this is your forget a little bit closer to the mic. And,
All right.
All right. I'll tune it up. It's great to see you. Now, of course, I know you personally, but still, what's cool about this is, if you remember, I went to, I guess, WFAS in 2014.
Mm-hmm.
So it's that long ago. And I would even play a song because just to acknowledge you, because I loved your restaurant. And
Thank you.
You were the manager then
Yes.
before you bought it. And tell us a little bit about the history of the Beachmont. I know there's been some debate, but in the great song, Bye Bye Miss American Pie, he talks about the levee. Was it or was it not your restaurant? What's the history?
It was never, Beachmont was never called the levee.
Right.
It was a nickname, levee, like a watering hole.
Oh, sure.
So, and that was Beachmont's nickname back in the day, from my understanding.
That's terrific. So so you are running the original levee.
That's right.
Now you have an interesting bit. What made you? Now you're a young guy.
Thank you.
But yet you managed the restaurant. What drove you to buy it?
You know what? I have a passion for the hospitality business,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the atmosphere. But the most important thing I would have to say is when you watch family and friends and just everyone sit down, make memories, smile, and just enjoy your food, and leave happy. It's a great feeling.
Well, and you've done some stuff. Like I remember I went in there one night last year, and I'd heard that Jennifer Lancer, with whom I worked, was in there. So I went in there to see, and you were having some sort of party that you were just giving away a party. I don't know if that was a Christmas party or a New Year's party. Somebody back there that knows you? See, that's the way it is. See, they walk right by. Did you realize that we were open air like this?
I did.
Cool?
I liked it. It's awesome.
Well, the thing is that you can't park here. Mm-hmm. You can't park. You can't take the bus. You can't be dropped off or walk down from North Avenue, not past this, because it's a 5-sided building. So with the windows all open, and when it's dark, we're lit up like a little jewel. So, we're having people knock on the window all the time, from judges.
That's awesome.
It is pretty awesome. And so you do that. Now, did you grow up in the hospitality business? Is this something you always wanted to do?
No. I started working in the Beachmont in 2007 as a busboy.
You started as a busboy?
Mm-hmm. And I worked my way up through every position: busboy, barback, waiter, cook, kitchen manager, etc. All the way to the top.
That's a great story, because 2007 is when I started doing morning radio. So we have something in common. But I'm still doing morning radio when you own the place. Well, I guess I have my own radio station now. But I'm having difficulty keeping pace.
We both have that entrepreneurial spirit.
But you knew, when did you know this is what I want to do? I'm always interested in
honestly, the first few weeks.
Really?
Yeah, it was a crazy. You get new people every day. It was fresh. It was fun every day. Something new. It wasn't the same old boring routine as some people might get working in an office or whatnot.
Now, are you from New Rochelle originally?
I grew up here, and I moved here when I was 10, so I just had when I grew up here, because that's when you do a lot of your growing up.
Well, yeah, but that is very true. So you moved here when you were 10. Now, a little bit more about your restaurant, and you managed to do what I find interesting. You have a good clientele. Of course, you have the college across the street.
We have the best clientele.
Location. But still, it's not, people can park, fortunately, up by the high school. But how do you manage to keep such a good business without your own parking lot? Because other people struggle with that.
We are very fortunate. We do have a great location.
Yeah.
And
a lot of the kids can just walk across the street.
So we have the I own a college across the street. I have a bunch of great locals who just live around the corner from us. But, just provide a great product and a great atmosphere, and they will come.
They really do. And, well, you know what your place reminds me of?
Pour it and they will come.
Yeah, pour it and they will. Oh, no, but the food is good, too. I just got through talking about the burgers. Now, I grew up in Brooklyn, and what was good about it, unless you were going out, we'd say, quote, unquote, I'm putting quotes up for the TV, which I'm on, unless you're going out like a partying on a Friday or a Saturday, even then, you walk to your local pub, and you could have a few, and you didn't have to worry about driving. And the Beachmont has that feel. And because it's literally dead center in the town, it's like literally dead center, as is the college, you can walk there, or if even you feel you've had too much, you can take a cab and then go get your car tomorrow. You're close enough.
Yeah.
So you've got a lot of that. What has been what is the zeitgeist now? You know, we see all these beer places. We know wine is popular again. We know different kinds of beer. What is the restaurant stock and trade?
You know, I guess to keep up with all the fads and what's hot and what's not.
And what are they?
You have to constantly, we'll get that in a second. We just have to constantly evolve and keep on top of all these trends. So I'm always reading what's new in the business.
What's new?
Good question.
No, but
well, I have to say
generally
what's
speaking.
new right now is more, you know, it's funny. A couple years back, everything was hot with craft beers, mixology, and drinks like that.
Yeah.
However, right now, everyone's paying more attention to the food. So that's why over the last year or so, year and a half, I should say, when I took over, I really put a focus on the pub-style food that we have and put a lot of care into it, because you could tell when you buy a frozen burger and the difference between a fresh burger, and that's what we have. We buy all fresh.
Oh, you're talking to the right guy.
Oh, I know. I love it. I love it. and I know that my customers, they notice the difference because they come back multiple times a week. I get the same repeat business on all my online ordering and takeout. And you know what? It makes me feel good knowing when people are like, wow, this burger's great. And I'm like, oh, thank you so much. But I know they mean it, and they show and support me in every way
I just
possible.
keep laughing when he eats the burger. I go in there and people will say, well, you're getting two? Well, yeah, just don't give me fries. Now, the wings are good. Now, you have the wings, and then you do those other things that are like little chicken balls they're like
The
they're called
boneless
wings.
Yes.
Wonder how those birds flew without bones. But and then you'll have the pasta. Like one of the things, and this segues into where I'm going with your community involvement. But I still want to focus a little bit. So the food matters.
Absolutely.
Have you noticed that certain drinks? I notice more people seem to be drinking bourbon than ever before. Why is that? It tastes better than Scott's, by the way. But
that it does. Bourbon has been hot for the last several years, and there's actually a shortage. So that's why.
What do you mean a shortage?
There's such a high demand for it over the last couple of years.
No kidding.
So that's why you see an increase in pricing. Right now, that's on the decline, and tequila's up on the rise.
Tequila's on the. Are there really worms in the bottom of the bottle? Some of
It
them?
depends. From my understanding, from what I saw, some companies put the worm in it. I guess as a little
Have
gimmick.
you ever eaten a worm? From the
No,
bottom?
no.
Oh, good.
I stay away
just
from the
wanted-
worms.
Well, it's your business, for God's sakes. If you're not going to eat the worm, who will?
But I tell you what's hot right now in the summer has been spiked seltzer.
Say more
The
about
White
that.
Claws
Yeah.
and Bon Vivs and everything else in between. So, for example, they're so hot that this summer alone, White Claw has outsold every craft brewery in America put together in sales.
Is that right? Now, what are some of the brands? Now, I was out west a few years ago on business, and it seems it's worked its way east. And you see them in the grocery stores. Now, I don't know what to call them, and I know it's in the same family. But you pick up, it's like a 6-pack. They're in a soda bottle, and they're bubbly, but they're an alcoholic beverage. Are those? What are they?
Oh, those are spiked seltzers.
Those are spiked seltzers. Yeah. They're huge out west, and they've been working their way
They are
here.
hot everywhere.
And they're tasty.
Yes,
it's not like, sometimes you buy a drink, and you may want to, for people who like to drink, they want to get the buzz, but it doesn't taste good.
Yeah, it's nice. It's like drinking a beer, and people who don't enjoy beer can really get to enjoy spiked seltzers.
Yeah. So now
same alcohol content, but great flavors.
Now, can you get them tap, or is it still all in the bottle?
You can get them on tap. I have it on tap.
You do have it on tap. Now, what's more popular? There was this for a while. It's almost no one was drinking tap beer, except this iconic place where I grew up called Farrell's. Their tap is their big thing, and then bottled beer became famous. What's the preference?
You know what? Like I said, trends come and go, and things get hot. They don't get hot. Right now, tap beer, at least at the Beachmont, is still hot. I guess it really depends on your selection and what kind of system you have, how great the pourer is, and how cold the beer is.
Okay.
So it matters on a lot of factors, and if you're able to keep your beers cold, lines clean, and a great rotating selection, you'll own it.
That voice you hear is that of Rob Hayes. He likes to go by Rob. Of course, it's Robert, but Rob Hayes. Now, Rob is the owner and general manager of the Beachmont Tavern, made famous, actually, and I almost wish you could change the name, but probably somebody owns it to the levee, but then it's known as the Beachmont. It's right across from Iona College here on North Avenue. And I've been trying to get him on for 5 years, and finally, now one of the reasons I've always been interested in Bob, aside from his business, is he's very community-oriented. Now, when I was running the chamber, even before he became the president, we'd ask for help. and you would come and you would bring food to our events, and you would bring a staff, and it's don't even pay us. We're community minded, and I know you do that a lot for organizations. And then you join the chamber as the president, and then you take it to another level. When did you learn? Was it the previous owners, who I know you got along with very well, wonderful people? And they were community minded as well. I remember you being at the charity baseball game, or softball game we used to play. What made you join the chamber, and how did you manage to get so involved as you are now? And where does that come from with you? I know it helps business, and that's the cynical, selfish end. But
yeah, you want to, you start, you get into business to make money, and
of course.
And I believe the best way to grow your business is through networking and to be community friendly. I believe the more you give out, the more you get. So that's one of the reasons why I am so heavily involved in the community. I love getting to know not just my customers, but potential customers, and that's really it. And I've been doing community service since when I was younger. It all started, I guess you could say, in the Boy Scouts. I was a Boy Scout, Eagle Scout.
I was a Cub Scout. I didn't
a little after that.
I grew radishes and eggshells.
Okay.
I'm just saying. Did you have to climb a tree, or did they change it because it's too dangerous? I had to climb a tree to get my wolf pack badge.
No, we weren't really too concerned about danger. When I was younger.
Anyway, so go ahead.
But we did a lot of community involvement, from helping all sorts of charities to volunteering our man hours to painting churches, building homes for the needy, and stuff like that. So that carried on as I got older, and I'm always willing to give back to whomever. They need trays of food for an event, save your money, put it towards your foundation.
No, I know. Well, that's what you've done.
Yeah.
I think I'm still ahead of the game. I've eaten more free food from you than I think I paid for, and so too the chamber whenever they've had an event. What's your tenure at the chamber been like? The parade gets better. Of course, it's difficult with the construction. But
like anything, you want to get bigger and better every year. So the key to anything you do is, after an event, you take notes, you brainstorm with everyone involved, and you still do a little research how other people are doing it. So, and that's exactly what we do every year. Do you have to go to conventions and stuff? I know a friend of mine, he's in the restaurant business, but he designs restaurants, he designs kitchens and stuff. Great. And he's always going to a company called Singer, you probably know, but he's always going to conferences. And that is the key to staying relevant and growing, is like knowledge is power, even in the bar and restaurant business. Of course it is, yeah. So every year, yes, I go to trade shows. There's a nightclub and bar show in Vegas I attend every year, and there is a restaurant association food show in Chicago I attend. Yeah, okay. Now, it's nice to stay on top of all the trends and just see what next year is projected to bring, so you could kind of bring that to your customers beforehand. Now, there's a little game I play in my head, because one of the things, I had a restaurant for a while up in Yorktown. And I wasn't the prime guy, thank goodness, because one of the virtues of it is you got to be there. So every time I go in your restaurant, I say, I wonder if Rob's here. And I'm only once, but you were on a cruise because of your favorite rock band. That's right, the rock band Kiss. But you're always there. We're going to talk about that in a minute. The hours are tough. Yeah, they can be. You'd have to be a little crazy to own a restaurant bar. But it's got to be your life, no? It is. I always say, if you're going to get in this business, you have to be married to the business. Mm-hmm. I'm there minimum 90 hours a week. But I don't mind it, because I really, really, truly love doing it. I can tell. That's why you're here. I love going out from the second I get there to the shopping, the ordering, the inventory. I love going to the produce market, the meat markets, checking out all the products, make sure I'm buying the best quality meats, best quality products for the customers, because I got the best customers. Do you go all the way to Hunts Point for your vegetables? Yes, sometimes I do. I go over there. I go to local. I try to keep some business here in Rochelle with Viva Grande. Mm-hmm. Then I go out to Hunts Point. Then I go out to Pete's Meat Market for the good grief butchers. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Do you know when this, of course, was a whole different kind of scale. It was a cafe and a salameria, really, but we had a restaurant part. But the ordering, and then the delivery and the bills, the meat bills, my God. And then the refrigeration. You can go, refrigeration, what expense to run a restaurant. And then you got the health department coming in. Does this sink work? How are your taps doing? Oh, it's a tough business. It is. As long as you stay on top of everything, like I said, that's part of being the 90 hours a week. You got to make sure everyone's doing the job you have to assume they're not. So you have to be on top of everything, making sure it gets done properly.
And then
lead by example.
And then, of course, you're a boss, and you have to conform. You got all that too, payroll.
Yeah, on top of all that stuff, make sure it gets done. And I'm a big believer in lead by example. So you'll see me there sometimes with a mop, cleaning
I've seen
at
you
the
with
end
a
of the
mop.
shift. So yeah, I guess if they could see the boss is doing it, I want them to show them how important it is to me, so it kind of rubs off on them.
You know, since you're here and we have to have a little fun, you're a heavy metal fan, or at least a Kiss fan.
Rock and roll and heavy metal, yeah. I
See,
am.
I'm a classic rock kind of guy, but I've never been on a cruise to see. What's it like going on a cruise where your favorite rock band is playing? Do they play every night, or is it just one gig? How does
Great
that work?
question. They play a couple times on the cruise. It's more like a music festival at sea. They bring a lot of other great bands.
They have.
So there's
other
a
acts,
great bands playing all day, every day while you're on this vacation. It's a lot of fun.
Do you know what I was amazed at? I've only been on 2 cruises, I think, 1 or 2 cruises in my life, but I went to the shows. Those theaters are bigger than Broadway theaters. And this is on a ship. The thing was huge.
Yes. No, they are very large theaters. I love cruises. It's like a floating city.
Yeah, well, you know what I did? And it's back when I was on WVOX. I invited I met some of the musicians, and I said, when you're on break, come on the show. And so they could talk about their lives. And it's interesting stuff. Some of them, their whole career is on a ship.
Yeah.
And some of them, they do 3 months on, a couple of months off, 3 more. I met this drummer. And what was interesting about this drummer, I still have his name on my phone. This drummer, and it makes you realize how tough that industry is. He played the drum for a rock band. He played the drum for a broad play like. In other words, this is on the ship.
Wow, yeah.
He was like the drummer. And he had out of a lot of sheet music, which I didn't even know drummers used. But he was able to play all these formats. It's how he made his living. I mean, it wasn't good for his love life. But then again, it was good for his love life. It depends, being on ship. I know they're not supposed to cohabit, but they're human beings. So how often do you do that?
Every year.
Every year you do it. That's nice.
It's the one vacation I look forward to every year.
That's really cool. So where's your business headed? What are you doing? Where are you taking the business?
Since I bought the bar, we did a transition. I'm trying to keep it more of a traditional style tavern.
Mm-hmm.
And
I like that.
Like I was saying before, with the focus on the food. And I just try to do it bigger and better every day when I get there. That's really it. Like one of my favorite quotes from Thomas Jefferson: "If you do tomorrow what you did today, you'll get tomorrow what you got today." So that's a little deep, but
no, that is interesting. Say more about. So in other words, you got to do a little more the next
every day.
day.
You got to change if you want to keep growing. If you don't change it up and do what you have to do, you'll still get the same stale product that you got the day before.
That's really interesting. I'm going to use that, I think, for this business. Well, a couple of little things that I've always wondered about bars. Now, it's something that I like. I happen to be very sentimental and love Christmas. I would leave Christmas lights all year on if I could, if I didn't look like an idiot. But I've noticed taverns, particularly taverns, you leave them up a little longer. Is that to hold on to that feeling? Is that deliberate in your business?
What, I guess when you see Christmas lights, you always get a good feeling. It puts a little special place in your heart. So we put them before, we keep them up a little after.
What's the hardest part about your business?
That's a good question. I guess one of the hardest things would be and the main reason why I'm there so many hours a week is just quality control. You want to make sure that the product comes out the same way every time.
Yeah, it should be. It should be just like a signature.
Exactly.
Yeah,
so because that's what the customer comes for, and that's what they deserve. Everyone works hard for their money, and they deserve the best possible product, and it should be exactly what they expect, or it should go above their expectations.
Wow. Okay. Let's look to the future. What kinds of things in terms of marketing, in terms of in other words, what I want you to do is take the opportunity to plug your business. Do you have happy hours? Do you have special days where
we have the best
2
happy
drinks
hour
for somebody dumb like me? Or tell me what you have.
I'll tell you what. I'm going to go through the specials real quick.
That's what I want.
So Monday through Friday, we have happy hour from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. So I guess that's more like happy hours.
Yeah.
On Mondays, we do a $10 burger and a beer special. We do 75-cent wings on Tuesdays with $10 pitchers.
I will say keep the beer. Give me another. All right, go ahead.
On Saturdays, we do sangria Saturday. You know, we have a wonderful, and I mean wonderful, homemade sangria. It's probably the best you'll ever have.
Mm-hmm.
I make it myself, and we have it on tap.
Wow.
Sunday, we do Sunday Fun Day along with our Sunday football specials. And then including football, we do Monday and Thursday night football specials as well.
Okay.
And Thursday, outside of football, is all-day happy hour.
All-day happy
Yep.
hour. What does that mean now? So
Happy hour pricing all day.
now, how different? What percentage is off usually of a drink or a beer in a happy hour, roughly speaking?
For our Bud and Bud Light draft, that's 40% off.
Wow,
Yeah, no, it's a good savings.
that's pretty good.
Yeah.
What about now? Are there any happy hour specials?
And
for
you
the
get
burgers?
we have all our craft beers. Most of our craft beers are $6.50 to $7, but during happy hour they're $5. So there's nice savings.
That's a good deal.
Yeah.
That really is a good deal.
We do, and during happy hour we do $6 appetizers. Our most popular finger foods, the mac and cheese bites, which are to die for.
People,
Zucchini
I'm the
sticks.
only person I know that doesn't like mac and cheese in the whole world.
You don't like mac and cheese?
No.
All right, this interview's over.
Goodbye. Yeah, but I like everything else you make. So tell me what those finger foods are. Tell me what your favorite, the standard fare.
Oh well.
For finger food, the
outside of wings.
Yeah.
Like
Wings, and more wings, and the wings that can't walk because they have no bones.
We can't keep our buffalo chicken dip and our spinach artichoke dip. We make everything in house, and people love it and go crazy for it.
Okay.
Like I said, the mac and cheese bites, except for you, everyone else loves.
See, go ahead. You at 2, Rob?
Yeah, we have a great selection of just finger foods, small plated foods, and our burgers and wraps are just something a little heavier if that's what you're looking for to fill up while at the bar.
Wow, that's pretty good. Well, it's wonderful to see that. What do you want to say about the chamber? I know the chamber has been going well. You have a new executive director.
We do.
I met her.
We love and miss Jen, but we have a new executive director who is just fantastic. Her name's Catherine White.
Catherine White.
And we have a lot of great things planned for the Chamber of Commerce here in New Rochelle for the upcoming year. A lot of new programs. We've been focusing on how to really give back to more benefits on top of all the many we already have for our members, and how to give back more to the community. So the new programs we're putting in play this year will be really beneficial to our members, and I'm really excited to launch them and to partner up with hopefully local schools we're working on to help teach economic classes and really just let everyone know who we are, what we do, and how can we help.
Well, certainly I would encourage anybody to go to the website, the New Rochelle Chamber of Commerce, and check out what they offer. And also,
if anyone likes money and wants to grow their business, that's the place to join.
Join the chamber. And also, I know Ms. White has a wonderful assistant there, Diamond, who's there most of the days. She's terrific as well. I want to thank you for coming in. It only took me 5 years, but I'm persistent.
I was waiting. I was just waiting for the right moment.
Just waiting for the right moment. Well, congratulations on your iconic place, Beachmont, folks. The next time, and this is marketing, but it is true, and we do it for our friends and colleagues. The next time you hear Don McLean sing "Bye Bye Miss American Pie," think of the Beachmont, because he was when he wrote that song. Again, my guest has been Rob Hayes. He's the owner and general manager of the Beachmont Tavern, also known as the Levee. He's also the president of the New Rochelle Chamber of Commerce. We've got to do some thanking of guests and some spots and weather. Thanks very much for being with us, Rob Hayes.
Thank you for having me.
And we will go first to the weather. Let's take our final look at the weather. And I know I had it here. Okay, it's 33 now. 33 degrees, getting up to 47, but it won't happen until midnight tonight. Wet weather alert, though. The rain should start in a couple of hours. Tonight, cloudy with periods of moderate rain, becoming heavy towards midnight. Temperatures near 48. Again, that's at midnight. Heavy downpours tomorrow. During the morning will give way to scattered rain in the afternoon. Warm with highs around 58. Breezy. Wind out of the southwest, 10 to 20 miles an hour. Cloudy at night with a few lingering showers. Low around 42. Sunday, you'll get some sun, but clouds as well, but very windy. Gusts up to 40 miles an hour, the high of 47. And the sun returns on Monday, a mix of sun and clouds. Now, as we move forward, we remind you of our sponsors. Now, brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses, and it's right here in New Rochelle. Now, our sponsors today include the following. The United Hebrew of New Rochelle, of course, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. The law firm of Pena & Khan, and they will be joining us soon enough for some special shows as well. PluginVirtualReality.com and Dominic Cigars. They brought you the picks of the week, and they also are supporters of this program. Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrones, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. They're open 7 days. We want to thank the callers today. Of course, Anthony and Mitch and others. Vince Russo, thank you. Janelle Albritton from the Westchester County Post.com. Steve Callis there. He is the sports editor at that newspaper. Jake Schaefer and Jake's Picks of the Week in Sports Commentary. Thank you, Jake. And, of course, the good doctor who told me why I like the smell of skunks, if you can believe that. Can you believe that, Jake? Hezi Aris, as always. And, of course, from the Beachmont, Rob, thank you very much. Rob Hayes, Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce, the owner and General Manager of the Beachmont, the Levy, also known as the Levy. Monday, Bob Cox joins us for an hour. The mayor joins us for a time. The county executive, George Latimer. He always has a lot to say and more. That's coming up Monday. Thank you, everybody. This is Radio Westchester. We are the radio station at the train station. Mornings with Bob Marrone. Of course, I am he. Now, remember, each and every day, you can go on, you can put it on your phone, you can put it on Bluetooth in your car, you can take us to the space shuttle. RadioWestchester.com. You can go to MyTuner Radio, that app, download that, and you can listen to us anywhere. And, of course, you can watch us, as many of you are right now, on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and Periscope. Thank you so much for listening. I'm Bob Marrone. Have a wonderful weekend.